sandbag locations, how long the shelters are open. If you need transportation to that shelter, we can make those arrangements. But please call now. Please do not call 911 for storm-related questions. 911 must be kept open for emergency service calls only. So we have our citizens information lines open. Operators are standing by, waiting to answer your questions. Again, we're talking about tropical storm force wind, hurricane force winds, 30 to 40 miles per hour, gusts up to 80 miles per hour. That's going to be sustained pretty much all night into late, maybe tomorrow afternoon. So this is a long duration event once it does hit. Again, there's still a possibility of storm surge once the eye of the storm does make landfall. It is forecasted now to make landfall either at Cedar Key or north, but that can still change. Our next brief is at 7 p.m. from the National Weather Service. So I'll open it up to any questions.
How long will you be receiving citizens in the shelters? I mean, there's people that take risks coming under the storm, trying to get there. Will you be receiving them?
We'll receive them as long as it's safe for the roads to be open. Yes.
Off of memory for you, what is another storm that give you guys the same impact as we could see with this one?
We kind of like comparing storms, but every storm has its own nuances. But for comparison, for your question, in 2016 we had Hurricane Hermine that skirted the coastline. This is kind of very similar track. The eye of the storm is going to be about 80 miles off our coast. So it's, it's going to be severe. It's going to be about 3 to 4 feet above what we experienced in 2016. So if your house flooded in 2016 in the Hernando Beach, Pine Island, Arapaca area, there's a good possibility it'll flood again. If you did not flood, it's a good possibility it will flood now because it is about 3 feet above what we experienced in 2016. Again, this is going to be catastrophic, life-threatening storm surge. Please heed our evacuation notices. Prep your family, your friends. Make a plan. If you plan to evacuate, please tell family and friends that live out of state where they know, so they know where you're going, so they can contact you. Have it go.
All right, so that is the news briefing that was held over in Hernando County, Florida. This right here, a live XRAD view of Hurricane Idalia. The latest update from the National Hurricane Center released at 2 p.m. Eastern time, so just under an hour ago. The storm just barely picking up speed, moving north at 15 miles per hour. Idalia currently has those maximum sustained winds of 90 miles per hour, which is top tier Category 1 hurricane. It will reach Category 2 strength when those maximum winds reach 96 miles per hour. Now, Idalia is expected to undergo some rapid intensification and make landfall tomorrow morning as a Category 3 major hurricane. It is now 2:55 on the East Coast, 11:55 on the West Coast. Let's head to a quick 2-minute commercial break, the last one of the hour. And on the other side, our very own Mike Page will be in the hot seat with all your top stories, headlines, and really tracking this hurricane. You're watching Live Now from Fox.
People who appreciate what you guys are doing. You guys are pulling double duty. You guys are on broadcast television. You guys are also on stream.
Yes, my other personality is on broadcast right now.
Your clone is on broadcast doing its thing. And then, all right, so look, raining in Newport Richey, says Linda. Now, that's up in Pasco.
Yep.
I mean, so really, these are, and when we talk about these areas now in some of these coastal communities, Jeff, this is Idalia, correct?
It is the very outer edge. The first band is moving through Newport Richey, the very outer band. Behind it is a bit of a break, and then the stronger band is moving through Sarasota County right now. And the storms that have been south of like Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and down to Naples, they have been producing tornadoes. And I do think that threat gets in here this evening. I mean, it could happen before that, but it seems to be slowly making its way up the coast.
Yes, and I have an update from my Ring app about all South Tampa Publixes are closing at 5 p.m. and not putting a hard open time on tomorrow.
Got it.
All right.
It's good to know. Heather Fox.
Last minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Question as well from Heather. My parents evacuated Crystal River. They live right on the water. Do you think the predicted storm surge will continue to go down?
Well, first of all, Heather, that's great. I'm so glad that your parents evacuated. The prediction right now from the National Hurricane Center is something like 9 to 12 feet in Crystal River. I think it's going to be on the lower end of that, but I'm not about to say that the National Hurricane Center is wrong and we're not going to get 9 feet of storm surge in Crystal River. I do think things are looking more favorable for a bit less, but think about it. If it's 7 or 8 feet, or if it's 9 or 10 feet, what's the difference, right? The point is, I don't know that we're going to get an insignificant amount of storm surge in Crystal River. It's certainly possible, the further west the storm goes, that Crystal River gets less and less. But I think your parents made the right decision. I don't think that we can. Every storm is different. It depends on how strong the storm gets, and it depends on whether or not it hits at high tide. So I think there are just too many things on the table to say, hey, we're going to get a lot less in Crystal River. Everyone's home is going to be fine. I think it would be risky, and I'd be putting your life at risk if I were to say, yes, we're going to see less storage.
Now, the outer edge being felt in portions of the Tampa Bay area already, we should point out tonight's live streams are going to be very interesting, and we do have reporter teams located in various spots. This is what they do as far as documenting the storm and its actual progress out there and how impacts are being felt. I hope you'll join us tonight, folks, because we'll be transitioning. It's the first part of our coverage where we'll be transitioning really from storm coverage to landfall coverage, and they look a little bit different because you'll start to see more of
Pictures.
Idalia. Yep. And that's coming your way tonight, right here on our streaming platforms.
Our reporters are working with us. I'm going back and forth with Jack Royer right now. He's trying to find a location he can safely bring you the story from.
Where is he?
In Citrus County. He looks like he's near the Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge. And I said, unless that's a 3-story concrete building, you need to move inland a little. He's near Charlie's Fish House Restaurant and the Dockside Deli near the Crystal River City boat ramp.
Okay.
Oh, I've been to that boat ramp. He needs to move a little bit. That won't work.
Well, he wants to set up shop and stay there tomorrow morning. Is that what it is?
Yeah, he wants to be able to show what's going on safely.
Yeah, and this is part of what we do, folks, as far as where our reporters are positioned. We try to get them in the safest positions possible to be able to document what is happening. This is a moment in time, and two, to work with local officials to document exactly how the storm is impacting a certain area.
Right here on Live Now from Fox. But in the meantime, do want to head out to showcase a little bit of what FEMA was saying at the White House briefing from just a little bit ago.
Corrine, and good afternoon, everybody. I know it hasn't been very long since I have been up here briefing all of you, but I think that this really is indicative of the pace of the major disasters that we are seeing across the nation. And the reality is we are just now approaching peak hurricane season. In addition to responding to the current storms, as well as other incidents, we have to remain focused.
All right, we will go out to FEMA, their recap in just a little bit, but I want to go out live here, show you the latest live content that we have coming in that is out of Manatee County right now. Let's listen right here on Live Now from Fox.
Van Austin Bridge, Kevin. Thank you, Bill. We also have with us Commissioner Satcher, Commissioner Ron, and Commissioner Ballard, Deputy County Administrator Courtney DePaul, Interim County Administrator Charlie Bishop, and Tara Polton, representing Congressman Buchanan's office. So we're sort of going to give you a state of the state at this point. We're starting to feel some effects of Hurricane Idalia at this point here in Manatee County. We do continue some final preparations, but residents and visitors are monitoring and are continue to monitor messaging and react and respond accordingly. During a normal day, our Manatee County website, which is mymanatee.org, hosts approximately 250 individual users at a time. Luckily, residents have been heeding our advice and listening and going to the site to get information, and our traffic is up to 8,000 users at one time, which is great. So they're checking their evacuation level, they're finding sandbag locations, and they're signing up for Alert Manatee, which we'll get into a little bit later. But remember, if you have any issues accessing the information online, then you can call 311. So our Citizen Information Center for Manatee County is 311, and when you dial that, we have operators who are very busy at this moment, but they're doing a great job. We've beefed up the number of operators in our 311 system. But you can reach out to that to ask virtually any question that's county related. And if you dial 311 from anywhere in Manatee County, it will take you to that system. The outside line to just call the county, though, is 941-748-4501 if you need that. So far, 311 operators have helped over 2,600 visitors and residents from Manatee County. Here at the EOC, our Emergency Operations Center is operating at level 1. Our public safety managers and staff have been working hard, even through the night, to prepare the county for all potential impacts that we may feel from Hurricane Idalia. We are welcoming thousands of new people, as far as users, to Alert Manatee. And Alert Manatee, you can still sign up now. You go to mymanatee.org/Alert Manatee, and you will get real-time information. Once you sign up, you'll get text messages. In the form of a text message, you'll get real-time information on happenings during the course of Hurricane Idalia. And we're talking about things like road closures due to floodings, if there's downed trees and roads are closed, sort of power outages, all these sort of things. Real time, if there's any change in the direction of the storm, all that will be texted out through that alert system. It's become very popular. We highly encourage people to use it. It's a fantastic way for you to stay informed and receive real-time information throughout the storm. We're beginning to see some impacts across the region, as I said before. Low-lying areas and flood-prone areas already have standing water in them. I was out on Anna Maria Island and Longboat Key this afternoon, and there were multiple roads that were flooded at this time. And remember, a flooded road is a closed road. You should not drive through a flooded road. You don't know what's under there. You don't know if there's a potential washout, if there's down power lines. So a flooded road is a closed road. And we say turn around, don't drown, because you have no idea how deep the water could be or if things are flooded out. So please, folks, going forward, because we know that there's going to be a storm surge following what would be considered the impacts of the hurricane. So after the wind and the rain, we know that storm surge will follow that. And in fact, that will be the most significant storm surge. So we're asking you, please, please do not be a disaster tourist or a hurricane tourist. So please just don't go out on the roads sort of, playing like you're a weather guy or a Fox News contributor and trying to catch good footage. Please don't do that. Leave that to experts. Stay off of flooded roads and out of the way of rescue crews and first in teams. And we'll try and get power linemen out as quickly as we can, but we don't want people in their way. We want to stay clear out of their way so that we can restore power and restore the county to its full operating level as soon as humanly possible. So with that, I'll turn things over to our Public Safety Director, Jody Fisk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just as a reminder, we have issued mandatory level A evacuations. That is all mobile homes, manufactured, and RVs. So please, if you've not left, take the opportunity now, gather what you need. You can go to one of our shelters. We currently have 3 shelters that are open for the general population: Freedom Elementary, Mills Elementary, and Miller Elementary. Currently at Freedom, we do have 129 evacuees. There are 91 evacuees at Mills and 94 at Miller. Please, again, if you have not left, take what you need, make your way to a shelter, to a friend, to a family member, do what you need to keep yourself and your family safe. Excuse me. If you are choosing not to go to one of our shelters and you are going to seek evacuation elsewhere, tens of miles, you don't need to drive to the Florida-Georgia line, tens of miles away from evacuation level A. Make sure that you are comfortable, that you are safe, and ride out the storm. And again, please pay attention to the surge. Tomorrow morning when the winds die down is not going to be the time to try to go home. Pay attention to all of our updates that are coming from public safety. Another reminder for everyone, there will be no trash pickup today or tomorrow, and recycling and yard waste is canceled for the week. If your trash pickup day was today, you will get picked up Thursday. Thursday's trash pickup will be on Friday. Friday's trash pickup will be on Saturday. You can also go to our website to check for all of those updates. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Director and Emergency Management Chief Steve Lichauer.
Good afternoon, Steve Lichauer, Deputy Director of Public Safety. I want to bring to light some of the important actions that we've been doing. We have put in place today are 7 first-in teams strategically placed throughout the county. What these teams are is Public Works, Fire, EMS, law enforcement, to open up the roadways if we have downed trees. Florida Power and Light, Preco Power is with them, so they're in place. Earlier today, Public Safety and our transportation team helped evacuate 116 patients from a downtown assisted living facility to one of our county general population shelters. Please don't wait until the last minute. Now is the time to evacuate. As Director Fisk said, evacuate tens of miles, not hundreds of miles, but now is the time to do this. We do not know yet exactly when or what the storm's going to do. We know we're going to get surge. We know we're going to get rain. We're worried about flooding. The thing with the flooding is the majority of that surge and flood comes after the eye of the storm has gone by. So there'll be a delay of those flooded roads, as it's been mentioned by the chair and the director. If you cannot see the roadway, do not drive through the roadway. We've already been in communication with all the cities, the island communities, about the roads being flooded, what our actions will be. If a road is flooded, it's closed. We're concerned about the surge of 4 to 7 feet, when that will come upon, and we will see winds of over 35 miles an hour or more. If you feel safe with that kind of surge and you're going to stay in place, then you're going to have to stay in place, because once the winds reach 35 miles an hour or more, or the roads are flooded, there's no way of emergency responders to get to you. So in doubt, evacuate now. If in doubt, move now. You have a very short window of opportunity. When it gets dark, you not be able to see the roadways. We don't know what the winds are going to do. So please, if you are going to evacuate, do it now before it gets dark. For more information, as has been mentioned, you can go to our website, mymanatee.org, or you can sign up at that website for Alert Manatee. Thank you.
You have any questions?
Yes, you said the county is currently operating at EOC 1. What exactly does that entail here at your office?
A level 1 activation is 24-hour staffing, so we've actually been at that level since yesterday. We have 2 shifts, an Alpha Bravo shift. Every emergency support function is providing 24-hour coverage at the desk. So really, since yesterday, we have been on constant conference calls. We've been in direct contact with the state emergency management as well as our federal partners. So it's 24 hours until the storm passes and we are sure that it is safe for residents to return back to their homes and the shelters are clear.
Currently, there's 3 shelters open. How is that decision made to only open 3?
Based on the number of population in the affected areas and what the shelters can hold.
If the need arises, you're certainly open to opening more?
Absolutely.
What are some of the areas that you're most concerned about with this storm?
The coastal areas are definitely going to see the bigger impact. The storm has a very, very large wind field, so we expect to see wind impacts throughout the entire county. I would also encourage everyone, please get registered for the alerts. Due to the side of the storm that we're looking to expect, we are expecting to see some tornadic activity. So those alerts will go out as soon as we receive them from the National Weather Service. The coastal counties, coastal area, however, will definitely see the higher wind gusts and they will see the surge.
Talk about the importance of having these teams that were mentioned that are, I guess, throughout the entire county that I think consist of the sheriff's office.
The first-in teams. Excuse me. Once the storm passes, the wind dies down, and it's light out, those teams are responsible to go in and make sure that the roads are clear. So if there are down power lines, if there are trees in the way, any kind of debris, they actually make it passable for first responders. And with the power companies there, we're also able to clear any down power lines and make sure those lines are not active.
What message do you give to people in these mobile homes, manufactured homes, or RVs who are deciding to just, stay and not take these evacuations?
I would urge them to reconsider if they are choosing to stay, I would highly recommend making sure all of your mobile devices are fully charged. Make sure that you have a cell signal. Call 911 if you find yourself in need. If you decide that you've made a mistake and you didn't evacuate, please do not hesitate to call 911. We will mark your address and make sure that we have noted where you are so that when it is safe for responders to come out, we can go to that location and make sure that you are okay. All right. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you. Go upstairs too.
All right, everyone, live look right now at St. Petersburg, Florida. Coming back in just 2 minutes. We are going to take our first break here of this hour. We are going to be tracking the very latest with Hurricane Idalia. All coming up next here on Live Now from Fox.
help that they may need after, or resources, I should say, after this storm does pass. Now, again, the storm is expected to make landfall along Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 3 storm on Wednesday morning. So good news, at least people will have some daylight as the brunt of the storm comes on land. DeSantis also noted if it does hit during Wednesday morning's high tide cycle, some places could get between 8 and 12 feet in storm surge. So that is bad news. And he says anyone that plans on staying behind and riding this out is putting their lives in danger. Meanwhile, DeSantis, he did just speak in Lake City in the last hour, and he said, quote, the storm surge is something you're not going to win, or excuse me, the storm surge is not something you're going to win the battle if you decide to stay. Stay behind for that. You're going to run away from the water and then hide from the wind. Now, meanwhile, over 20 counties do have evacuation orders listed. Almost half of those are mandatory. And here at the EOC, like I mentioned, there's a lot of departments here working together to put those assets in place so they are ready to respond after this storm. Some of those being linemen. There are 25,000 of them already in place with more on the way. The Florida National Guardsmen, there are 5,500 of them that will be in place to respond as well. There are also 8 urban search and rescue teams, and that includes 580 personnel. So the list goes on. They have a lot that they have put in place. So now we're just waiting for that landfall, and hopefully everybody has heeded those evacuation orders so we can make it out this storm safely. Mike?
Yeah, Brandy, that is what everyone is waiting for, obviously, and the storm surge threats there. That is what is the scariest part of it all for so many of the residents there on the Gulf Coast there of Florida.
Exactly, and we have reporters all across the state, and I saw some footage of homeowners, on Cedar Key, trying to harden up their homes, their windows, to make their homes safe. But meanwhile, the sheriff department was going door to door to let people know to evacuate and taking down their names if they were not. It's simply just not a safe situation to be in. So unfortunately, we are, hearing of some people that are planning to ride it out, as we hear every storm.
Yeah, you guys in Florida definitely are pros at this there. Brandy Campbell with Fox Weather, thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, and hope that you and your crews stay safe there as always. All right, everyone, we are going to take a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox, but you can always track the very latest. Fox Weather doing a great job. Hurricane HQ, you can download for free right now. Check it out at foxweather.com. It's on your favorite apps as well, and we will be back in just 2.
Also quickly approved an emergency declaration in advance of the storm in Florida, turning on the many tools that are available at my disposal to provide the governor any support or resources he may need in advance of landfall and then after. This allows me to pre-stage people, equipment, and resources in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, and I have done just that. We have pre-positioned different types of resources across all 3 states to include several incident management assistance teams, our urban search and rescue teams, our disaster survivor assistance teams, and they are all ready to pivot to the most impacted areas immediately after the storm passes. We also have warehouses filled with commodities like food, water, blankets, and medical supplies that are ready to rapidly move into the impacted area at the state's request. But we are not in this alone. We have an entire federal family that is postured to support. Our National Response Coordination Center here in Washington, D.C. is fully activated, and this means that there are several hundred staff from across the federal family that are working together to support any requests for federal assistance. We have our partners from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers who are pre-positioned to support any power restoration needs. Health and Human Services is assisting with evacuations from hospitals and assisted living centers. And the Red Cross has 50,000 meals to support the immediate needs as requested and has pre-staged shelter support to supplement the 19 shelters that are already open by the state. And this is a really important point that I want to talk about next. It's on preparedness. And again, I really ask for all of your help to help me ensure the people in the storm's path get this message. While we are engaged with our states to prepare for the path of this storm, it's critical that the people that are in the path of this storm are also prepared. And I know that the people of Florida are no stranger to storms, and I encourage all Floridians to take this storm seriously. This storm is very strong and is expected to strengthen to a major hurricane by the time it makes landfall due to high surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico. This means heavy winds, high winds, heavy rain, and a forecasted 12-foot storm surge in some of the areas along the western coast. This storm surge, this is one of the highest risk parts of a hurricane and is especially problematic along the west coast of Florida due to the underwater geography. The coastal shelf gets shallow very quickly, which increases the amount of the storm surge, putting more people at risk. Very few people can survive being in the path of major storm surge, and this storm will be deadly if we don't get out of harm's way and take it seriously. So I ask all Floridians to be vigilant and heed the warnings of your local officials. Have a plan to communicate with your family and your loved ones. Charge your cell phones, your batteries, any devices that you may have, and ensure that you are receiving emergency alerts. And most important, please listen to the warnings of local officials. If they tell you to evacuate, please do so immediately. And remember, you don't have to evacuate far. If you are in a storm surge warning area, it could mean just traveling 10 or 20 miles to get out of the most significant impact areas. It does not mean having to travel hundreds of miles to get out of the storm's path. And finally, we are all in this together. I ask that you check on your neighbors, especially those who are older adults, people living with disabilities, or may need additional assistance. But before I close, I want to provide an update on another topic that has been widely reported in recent days and asked by many of you, FEMA's Disaster Relief Fund, which as of this morning has a balance of $3.4 billion. So today, I am directing the implementation of immediate needs funding. This means that FEMA will prioritize available funding for critical response efforts to Idalia, the Maui fires, and any other extreme weather events that may come our way without interruption, while continuing to meet the immediate needs of survivors through the remaining weeks of the fiscal year. I want to repeat, we are prioritizing funding for Idalia, for the Maui fires, and any other extreme weather events that are coming our way without interruption. And I want to stress that while immediate needs funding will ensure we can continue to respond to disasters, it is not a permanent solution. Congress must work with us on the supplemental request that the administration has made on behalf of FEMA. And you are going to hear more from me on that soon. My primary responsibility at FEMA is to ensure that we are always postured to respond to any disaster and to provide the life-saving and life-sustaining support when needed. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Can you relate what you talked about with Governor DeSantis, and add any details about what coordination you're undertaking with Florida officials?
Yes, when I spoke with Governor DeSantis yesterday, my main question is always, what are your main concerns? What are the areas that you have the greatest concern about? And do you have any unmet needs or resources that we can bring in? He shared with me what his posture at the state is going to be and where he has some great concerns. And we are working and embedded with his staff. And I assured him that we have teams working side by side with our colleagues, our emergency management colleagues there at the State Emergency Operations Center to be able to quickly respond as needed.
Can I ask, following up real quick, what were those concerns that he had at that time?
He shared with me the concern, again, about people taking this seriously and being able to evacuate as a result of the storm surge. He has concerns about the vulnerable populations, right, and making sure that we are providing any assistance we can to help them get out of harm's way.
You mentioned the supplemental request after getting a fuller idea of what has happened in Hawaii and with this storm threatening, a severe impact. Do you anticipate raising the level of that supplemental request as you start to negotiate it with Congress?
Right now, the supplemental request that we have put in is $12 billion, and that will be a bridge to get us through the end of the fiscal year. If we continue to see more storms, we're going to continuously monitor very closely the health of the Disaster Relief Fund to determine what more may be needed. But right now, as the situation stands, the supplemental request will get us through the end of this fiscal year.
In some places places there is frustration with institutions and authorities. We've seen that in the wake of some other disasters. Do you have concern about people taking the warnings from public officials, acting on them? And when we saw with Hurricane Ian, there was a plan, again, the forecast indicated it was going in one place, it went farther south, and some people did not get out of the way. So my question is, given what we don't know, are you concerned that there is any wariness, mistrust, or fatigue about listening to officials in times of crisis like this?
I think the important thing to look at, and when we look at Hurricane Ian, is it's not just the path of the hurricane that we need to be concerned about. We have to be communicating what the entire risk is, and the significant risk and the highest risk for loss of life is storm surge. And that storm surge right now shows impacts all along the western coast. And so I encourage people, and I really appreciate your help in getting that message out, that it's not just the path of the storm, and it will continue to change, but look at all of the risks that are associated with this storm surge being the most life-threatening, not just where the path is going to go or where the eye of the storm is going to make landfall.
And in terms of the credibility of authorities, do you sense that there is any erosion of that at a time when you're trying to get that message out?
I don't have any indications that there are. I think that what we are seeing right now in Florida is people are heeding their advice of local officials, and people are moving out of harm's way.
Thank you. When I want to go back to Hurricane Ian. When Hurricane Ian hit, you had many communities of color. You also had poor communities complaining that they were not prioritized during this time, and so they didn't get necessary the relief that they wanted, and they felt like they were kind of put on the back burner. Many of these areas are in places that are more physically vulnerable. What is your message to those who have that concern that there may be a repeat in their community?
Yeah, so during Hurricane Ian, we had a large amount of people that were impacted by that storm, and we had teams of personnel that went out into communities across the state. And as we heard of stories of maybe pockets of people that we had missed, we immediately sent our teams out into those areas to ensure that they were getting registered for assistance, and we were bringing all of the resources that are available. And so what I would say is, if you hear about groups of individuals in parts of the state that after the storm passes are of need and they aren't getting that, let me know. I will send my teams out to those areas to make sure that they're getting all of the assistance that they're eligible for and that they need.
John?
Thanks a lot. FEMA, of course, has been dealing with the aftermath of the wildfires in Maui, and now you're preparing for a very powerful hurricane hitting Florida's southwest coast. To what extent is FEMA overextended or stretched too thin in dealing with these two natural disasters?
We are certainly postured and have the staff that are available to support multiple large events at the same time. We do have several open recovery disasters that we can pull some personnel from if we needed to extend or increase the amount of personnel we have. We also have a very layered approach, right? We can also reach out into all members of the Department of Homeland Security through what we call the surge capacity force for individuals that have volunteered to support during a disaster. And so I'm confident right now that with these two storms that we're currently dealing with in Maui and this one, or even another one to come, that we have enough personnel to go in and support these immediate life-saving efforts.
Last question, Alex.
You mentioned just extreme weather that we've seen all summer, from Hawaii, storms in Southern California. Is this in your view the new normal? Just summers where we're seeing these kinds of events more frequently and maybe more intense events than before?
What I can say is that we don't have a typical operational season like we've had in the past. We would normally prepare our staff to be on extra alert during the peak of hurricane season, which is where we find ourselves right now. But our operational tempo has been year-round. We started with atmospheric rivers in California in January, extreme tornadoes in the spring, to the wildfires, and now we are in peak hurricane season. And we have had an unprecedented number of disaster requests from governors because of the extreme weather that they're experiencing. This is our new normal. This is the operational tempo that we find ourselves in, and we have to continue to invest in mitigation and resilience to help these communities reduce the impact from these storms. So we
All right, so that was FEMA administrator there speaking on the latest there, talking about the path there for Hurricane Idalia and what the federal level is doing there to prep for Florida. Of course, we always got you covered right here on Live Now from Fox, as we will be continuing to track the latest here to this hurricane that is continuing its track towards Florida. Live look right now at our radar system, and you can see right now still a Category 1 hurricane, but that is going to change, and it's going to change rapidly there. So we are going to take a 2-minute break right here on Live Now from Fox. Live look right now in St. Petersburg, Florida, as the skies are darkening. Stay right here with us. We'll have much, much more coming up in just 2 minutes, all right here on Live Now from Fox.
Which way is it? There you go. You're right there. Yeah. You have any more information on that?
I don't have specifics. From what I hear, it's going rather smoothly. As what Mayor alluded to earlier, we're not seeing a large evacuation as maybe we'd hoped as far as in shelter capacities. There's lots of shelter capacity, I think, is the message there. So whether that's folks are heeding the warning and making the shelter the last resort and finding other host homes or hotels, that's great. So the message is there's lots of room in the shelters if you need shelter to make sure that you make your way to one.
Can you potentially talk about, kind of piggybacking off of what she just said, just talking about the idea that, a few years ago we had Ida come through, it was a tropical storm, people were like, oh, it's just a tropical storm, no big deal, but St. Pete saw pretty significant flooding in some of their neighborhoods, so this is a stronger storm potentially coming our way. Can you just talk about the storm surge, being potentially worse than it was even then, and the importance of taking that seriously?
Well, the projection right now is 4 to 7 feet of storm surge. And I think that less than a year ago, we had a better, even a better example of Ian. Fort Myers, Sanibel was on the outside of the cone. This time, a relative, they thought they were in pretty good shape, and then it took a turn. That can happen here. And so folks shouldn't relax until the storm is well past us. And even when it's past us, we're still going to see storm surge late Wednesday afternoon. So this isn't past us. Folks need to stay vigilant for another 24 hours, and then we'll be in much better shape. But storms are unpredictable. Folks that have been in Florida for a long time know it. Maybe folks who are newer to the area see that track and think they're safe, and we know from Ian that is not the case.
Do you know when crews might be cut out, when it would be safe for them to do so? Would that be like Thursday morning to start doing like the breathing dam assessment?
Recovery crews. Let me ask Rob, Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, St. Petersburg. And first of all, I want to thank the mayor for his leadership. He's been totally engaged, and the administrators and the chiefs and Ambers. I think we're really well prepared for this storm. We are preparing as if we could get a direct hit, and that's the tack that we're taking and the posture that we're in. I think on Wednesday, after the winds subside, Colleen will be in a position to go out and start making assessments on damage, also clearing debris for access to hospitals and other emergency needs if that scenario arises.
Thanks, Rob. Any other questions?
Is there anything being done differently compared to past storms? I know every storm is different, so have you learned anything from previous storms that you're implementing this time around?
Well, from my perspective, it's a lot faster. We've had less time, a compressed time to respond to it, but I think we've implemented a lot of lessons learned from previous storms. Our sandbagging, for example, happens year-round, not just during a storm watch. You want to talk about any other changes we've made?
I'll just say with every disaster we get better because as Mayor mentioned, those lessons learned. So whenever we have an activation, post-storm or post-activation, we all get together and talk about it, what went right, what can we improve on, and then we implement those changes next time. So we've gotten significantly better at sandbags since Hurricane Irma. We've got better at staffing our EOC and doing those activations, even since last year from things that we've learned. As you said, every storm is different. We've learned to prepare for our risks and not necessarily for the forecast, as Rob mentioned. So yes, we're out of the cone. Yes, a lot of us are kind of breathing a little easier. However, the risks are still there. The forecast, still tells us we could have 4 to 6 feet of storm surge. So we're preparing with that posture and moving forward that these are what's anticipated on the current perfect track. And if that storm takes that southern edge of the cone, it's going to increase those impacts. So we're going to be ready for if that happens. And that's all from lessons learned in past storms from ourselves and our neighbors.
Thank you, Amber. If I could just add to that, too, under the mayor's leadership, I think our relationship with Duke Energy has been much better. During the last storm, Duke was actually in our EOC. We were working hand in hand. And also with Pinellas County, with the mayor's experience on the county commission. We're in contact with County Administrator Barry Burton. We're having regular meetings. So I think both with Duke and with the county, our relationships are much stronger, and that helps us be more prepared.
One more question.
And that was the latest update. Officials in St. Pete there as they continue to track the latest with Hurricane Idalia. Of course, we got you covered as always right here on Live Now from Fox. We're actually going to take our final break here of this hour, but wanted to give you a live look here at 4 different cameras that we have set up across Florida here, and we will definitely be using these cameras as Hurricane Idalia gets closer to the Gulf Coast there of the section of Florida. We will have it for you as always right here on Live Now from Fox. We are going to enter into our final break here of this hour. When we come back, we'll take you out to Pinellas County, where officials there gave the latest update.
Between tonight and tomorrow. That doesn't include wave action. So we all know as these storms come in, there's wave action on top. Higher than normal full moon tides and heavy rainfall and storm surge will cause flooding in our low-lying coastal areas, with the highest surge heights occurring on Wednesday morning. If you were here for Hurricane Ada, the flooding that we had, especially in our coastal areas, is going to be very similar to what we saw for Ada. And we know that we had over 1,000 homes with at least a couple inches of water inside of them. We had some homes that had more significant amounts and had a lot of damages. So it's very important that you are looking at that risk. This is why we asked for our Zone A, our barrier islands, and our coastal areas to evacuate to get you out of harm's way. For those of you that were here for Hurricane Irma or Ian, you may remember that the surge actually sucked the water out of the bay. That is not going to happen with this storm. This water is going to get pushed inland into Pinellas County. We also know that the winds that we're going to have here may be similar to what we saw for Hurricane Irma, and we did experience significant power outages across the county. We expect the winds to be highest along our barrier islands inland and coastal areas on the western part of the county. Inland areas can still experience those tropical storm force winds sustained with gusts perhaps even as high as 90 to 110 miles per hour. This really varies on whether or not this storm wobbles as it comes in and gets closer to us. So we just have to remain vigilant. I would encourage everybody to bring in your lawn furniture, bring in things that may become projectiles from your lawn. We want to make sure that everybody moves to a safe location before those tropical storm force winds arrive. And we're looking at around 7 or 8 p.m. tonight. This is subject to change depending on if the storm speeds up or if the storm extends out. We want to make sure that people are planning for this. You can stay with family or friends outside of the evacuation area, stay in a hotel or a motel outside of the evacuation area. Plus, we also have 10 shelters that are open for free for the public to come into. We heard during Hurricane Ian that a lot of people stayed home because of their pets. Please know that we have 3 pet-friendly shelters that are open right now and will remain open through the duration of the storm. These are located at Gibbs High School, Largo High School, and Palm Harbor University High School. We are also working with our residents who are electric dependent or have other special needs. We have 3 shelters available to accommodate them. Those shelters have generators. We have personnel from the Department of Health there to help those folks. If you were on our registry and we contacted you, we are providing transportation to get people to those shelters. I would encourage anybody who is on life-sustaining medical equipment that doesn't have a generator plan or backup power plan at home, you can call our County Information Center at 727-464-4333. We are arranging transportation for those that will need it, but keep in mind that we will have to pull our buses off of the road probably at least 1 to 2 hours before those tropical storm force winds. We've already heard from PSTA. Their plan is to stop running buses at 5 p.m. So if you are relying on public transportation or you need transportation assistance, you need to be making those plans now so you can get your evacuation moved to that safe location further in county. Those rides for PSTA will be free, and again, they'll be running until 5 p.m. today. If you do evacuate to either a shelter or a friend's house, make sure that you take your vital documents, medications, pet supplies, lock your doors, and turn off your power and gas, and head to that safe location. Storm surge flooding is going to be our biggest danger, but we also will be getting those winds, as I talked about earlier. For those of you outside of the evacuation zone who will be riding out the storm in your homes, make sure you're ready. Please bring in those loose objects from your yard. We don't want them to become projectiles. Make sure that you have your basic supplies like food, bottled water, flashlights. It's a great time that if you've got those little power ports that you can use to recharge your phone, make sure you're charging that up. Charge your phones up. Make sure they're fully charged before you go to bed tonight. If you plan to use a generator, please don't use it during the storm inside. Afterwards, you can set up your generator outside and make sure that it's not venting towards your windows or doors. We don't want anybody to have issues with carbon monoxide. Operate it outside and away from windows. Once these tropical storm force winds start arriving this evening, it's very important that you continue to shelter in place and stay safe, even until after the storm. We need time to get out and remove any debris from the streets. We need to check and see if there's flooding and roads are impassable. With power outages or lines down, there's a possibility that intersections may not have working lights. So we'll need to make sure that we're treating those as four-way stops, and we want to try to get everything restored as quickly as possible. Duke Power has staged thousands of personnel here in our county, and you heard the governor talk yesterday. There are tens of thousands of additional electrical workers that have come in from across the country to help restore power as quickly as possible. We expect the winds to last overnight with the highest winds into the morning hours. So I want people to remember that once these winds get above tropical storm force, first responders may not be able to respond to you. So if you are worried about flooding in your home, if you're worrying about the winds and how they may impact your home, I highly encourage you to move to a safe place, friend or family, one of our shelters, hotel, motel, outside of the evacuation zones. Do that before 5 p.m. tonight. We have detailed information on our shelters, transportation, and what you need to prepare at disaster.pinellas.gov. You can also sign up for Alert Pinellas on our website. We will send notifications to you. We'll let you know when the lockdown period is, when the highest winds are coming. You can get updates from us. We also have a Ready Pinellas app, also in English and Spanish, has great preparedness information, what you need for your kit, and we'll be giving more information in terms of what people need to do to be able to get set for when these winds arrive, so we can make sure that people are protecting themselves during the storm. The County Information Center, again, is open 24 hours a day. Again, that number is 727-464-4333. I know that this storm is not headed directly, but please keep in mind because hazardous and deadly for us. If you're in Zone A, you can expect that 4 to 7 feet of storm surge, and this is above ground. So if your house is elevated at 5 feet above ground, you're only going to see potentially up to 2 feet of water in your home. So it really depends on what your elevation is, but you can see all along our coastal areas, our low-lying areas, we expect this storm surge to get pushed in. We expect the highest surge to occur tomorrow early morning around 5 or 6 a.m. And then we could see, because we know that we've got these higher tides tomorrow afternoon in different places of the county, there could still be some coastal flooding areas, those low-lying roads that might flood on sunny day, king tide flooding. You still could have some water on those roads. So please, you can look up this map at the National Hurricane Center. It's available. We will also post an image afterwards and make it available to the media to really stress that the cone doesn't tell the whole story of what this storm is going to do. Thank you so much for your time. Please don't panic. Please take the time today to prepare, get to your safe location. If you need to call and talk to somebody, please call our County Information Center. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly folks, neighbors that might need assistance. We're all in this together, so we encourage everybody to get prepared today, get to your safe location.
All right, so that was the latest update out of Pinellas County there, as we were really all day today. Started out in the early morning and continued into the afternoon, evening, bringing you the latest right here as we continue to track Hurricane Idalia. Right now, this is the look that we are seeing on our radar system. So we are going to continue to monitor it right here for you on Live Now from Fox. Coming up on a new hour right here, 4 o'clock on the East Coast, 1 o'clock on the West Coast. I'm your host, Mike Page. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now. I want to continue our coverage right here. Go out to Citrus County in Florida. That is where we find Fox 13's Evan Axelbank. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox as you continue and your team to track this hurricane.
Yeah, good to see you. We're about 70 miles right now north and west of Tampa, and the eerie thing about a hurricane is it's not here until it's here, and even though it's just maybe 10, 12 hours or so from coming on by our location here and sweeping up the coast, you can see that things look, as calm as can be. If it wasn't for the fact that it is deserted right now, it would look like any other summer day here in Citrus County. The water, as you can see behind me, couldn't be any more calm. There's barely any wind, maybe just a slight breeze. And so people have been ordered to evacuate this area, and indeed some have not. But at this point, it couldn't be any more calm. Let's show you, though. We did see a somber scene here a little bit earlier. Just a few feet from where I'm standing, we saw an elderly resident of a 130-year-old house being evacuated by friends and family. This is right along the Homosassa River and will be in significant danger, that house will, if the storm surge is significant. We also saw boats being brought into tall storage facilities. Employees of the boat rental business here called McCrae's, they're not planning to evacuate right now. They say they're going to kind of try to wait things out in the motel across the way from us, even though This area is in Zone A and has been evacuated by Citrus County emergency management officials, as have many of the Zone A's around the Tampa Bay area. We saw a number of people who appear to be staying in their homes, and those who are in a more fragile state, though, are being evacuated just out of safety's sake.
It's unpredictable and uncertain, but we're confident that we'll make it through it.
What is your plan right now?
To get her out of here and go. And from that, we don't know.
Citrus County Emergency Management says that it is fully prepared for all kinds of catastrophic events that could accompany Idalia. They say they're prepared for 60 to 80 mile per hour winds with gusts that are even worse than that. They're also prepared for 8 to 12 feet of storm surge. They say anyone in Zone A should have already evacuated. Shelters are considered a last resort, but are open in the area if anybody needs them. This is an area we come to quite often whenever there's significant flooding up here in the northern part of our Tampa Bay viewing area. This will be the first area that floods in Tampa Bay because of this storm. I mean, you can see how close we are to the water. The water is right down near where we're standing right now. I mean, it's only just a few inches from the water line and the deck that I'm standing on. So this is going to flood right away. As soon as it does, we're going to be out of here. And if we get 4 to 7 feet of water, I mean, I'm just about 6 feet tall, a little less than that. I mean, that, would put the water up here, somewhere in there. So that's something no one wants to see here, Michael.
No, it doesn't at all there, and we really appreciate your updates to you and your crew. Stay safe in these next coming days. We really appreciate your reporting, and stay safe as always there. Evan Axelbank always doing a great job with Fox 13. And, of course, we will continue to track Hurricane Idalia. We want to continue coverage right now, bringing you the latest here on Live Now from Fox. What we are going to do is feature some of our stations out there in Florida, Fox 13 and Fox 35. But right now, let's go out to Fox 13 in Tampa right now as they are giving, with their teams, the latest updates with Hurricane Idalia.
Installing a temporary dam around the low-lying part of Manatee Memorial Hospital. See how they inflated this temporary dam there. Water is already coming up along the coastline there in parts of Manatee. Fox 13's Kimberly Cuison joining us live from Longboat Key. And Kim, we understand there's already water on the roads there.
Yeah, Chris, well, actually that water has gone away. That's part of the king tide, and just up until 2 hours ago, that water was coming up onto the roadway, but it's since dissipated, which is good for right now. I'll give you a perspective of where we're at. We're on the north end of Longboat Key, right in between the Mar Vista and the shore. We're actually taking cover under the shore restaurant here. But joining me is Longboat Key Fire Rescue Chief Michael Regner. Chief, we see the winds have steadily picked up here. What do you want residents to know at this point in time?
Just, we want the residents to be safe, and we want them to heed the evacuation warning. We want everybody to evacuate. All of Longboat Key is in a level A, and that is what is supposed to be evacuated. We do see people still out on the island, so we want them to evacuate. Now is the time before we really start to see, some of the surge and some more wind. We're just getting it now, just starting to see the effects of it, and we just want everybody to, be cautious and be safe, and go ahead and evacuate now while you still can.
And I think we had talked earlier, too. You said some of those people in the 2-story high-rises, the concrete builds, the newer build homes, they may think that they're okay, and they may be okay, but it's the after effects.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're going to see the storm surge, we are going to get water on the roadways and so forth. And if they call 911 and ask for, responders to come to their home if they stay out here, which we do not want them to do, but if that were to happen, we have to then navigate those wet roads and water over the roads to first get to them. And then if they need to be transported to hospital, we have to navigate the water on the roads to get to the hospital over the Ringling Causeway area and the north side as well. So those are the things that we have to contend with just to make sure that we can get to the people out here. That's why, being a level A, it's time to evacuate.
So we're in the village of Longboat Key, one of the historic parts of Longboat Key. Can you talk about just earlier, 2 hours ago, we were in that water coming to meet you, and the roads were flooded, but now we're seeing some good signs, but you're preparing for what may come.
Yeah, absolutely. So out here on the north end of Longboat Key especially, when it's a high tide, normal, We do get flooding in the streets. People are aware of that. It's that storm surge that we're worried about that we're going to see out here. So a couple hours ago, yeah, it was a receding tide, but we had water in the streets already. So with the storm surge, that's our issue in this area especially.
Thanks, Chief. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Again, just be safe throughout the entire storm for yourself and everywhere you're going to be. And we just want everybody to be safe and be cautious.
Well, Chief, thank you for everything that you and the crews are going to do. I'm sure we'll see you tomorrow at some point, maybe.
Thank you.
Well, Chris, you heard it there. And actually, some of these residents that we talked to in the village of Lombok Key here, I had met with them about 2 years ago in 2020 when Hurricane Ada came through, and they did see water into their homes at that point. But like you heard, it's that king tide. It's the surge that we could potentially see. Most of the residents here have evacuated. There's some at home that I'll introduce you to later on as we go on over the hours. And they say that they do have a plan, that they've been through this. But for right now, if they haven't left, they're waiting it out until they can leave. Chris, back to you.
Yeah, and let's hope they...
All right, that was a little bit there of coverage from Fox 13 in Tampa. We are actually going to be talking to Kim there in just a little bit, so we'll be getting the latest updates from her. We are going to take our first break here of this hour. I do want to show you just what it's looking like out there in Florida right now. Live look right now in St. Petersburg, Florida. Then we have a look here of Clearwater Beach as well, and then we go out to Tampa here to close out. We are going to be tracking the very latest for you right here, as always, on Live Now. Stay right here with us. Quick 2-minute break on deck.
right now, and really that's not a sign of strengthening, but maybe it's just going through a regeneration process. Maybe it's going through some wind shear, which I know it is. So we'll see at the 5 o'clock advisory coming up in less than an hour if this is a Category 2 storm, and then we could see that rapid intensification because those water temperatures, JB, are still in the upper 80s and low 90s in the Eastern Gulf.
We got some great questions coming in. YouTube live audience, Facebook. Actually, we're not live on Facebook yet. We're back live on Facebook at 5 o'clock. And then Twitter as well. Actually, I will be including in the next 2 minutes, 3 minutes, any tweets that we get with good questions with hashtag #HeyEric, hashtag #HeyJB. If you tweet them out, they'll be included in our hit on broadcast television coming up again at 4:15, 5 minutes from now on WFLA News Channel 8. What are you expecting at 5 o'clock, Eric?
You know, I don't expect much change at all. Let me show you the satellite because it just doesn't look quite as impressive as it did earlier. And again, I want to show you that the eye, like you really can't even see an eye right in this area in the center part of your screen. You see this little opening, but the eye is maybe a mile or two, and it's really filled in. And you see this dry air to the east and to the north of Idalia. So some dry air is being brought in to the eastern and northern part of the circulation. Combine that with the wind shear. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if Idalia eventually strengthens. But boy, I mean, the eye is just all but disappeared right there, and it just looks like that's the trend right now. It's not really going through an increase in strength from what I can see. So if we do get to a Category 2 storm, maybe, but it sure doesn't look that impressive on satellite.
Let's remind our audience that we're about 50 minutes away, probably less than 50 minutes away from the 5 o'clock update. Cat 2? I mean, at 5 o'clock?
I'd go 50-50 on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the Hurricane Center's been inching this stronger and stronger by 5 miles an hour every 3 hours. But, boy, it just doesn't look that impressive on satellite radar. But we'll see. We'll see.
Let's show really quickly. I believe this is the Skyway Bridge, and there it is. Traffic still going over the Skyway, but we expect this, obviously, to change soon. This is a situation that's unfolding right now on WFLA.com. People want to know, when is the Skyway going to close? We're monitoring this at this very moment, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I would think sometime this evening after 6 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, maybe at the very latest, because, you know, tropical storm force wind gusts are possible later on tonight after 8, 9, 10 o'clock into the midnight hour. And I think to be safe than sorry, this will be closed much sooner than 10 o'clock.
Let's transition now, because we're about to get ready for our hit on television. We have several hits on TV that, of course, that we are going to have to do. And what that will look like is we're going to put up a "We'll Be Right Back" slate. And that is going to be just a signal to you, our audience, that we're just getting ready for TV. We'll do our TV hits right here on stream with you, and then we'll continue the Q&A portion. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Tracking the Tropics. We have you loud and clear.
I hear you.
Yep, we'll be in slate, but we'll be back right before our hit.
Counties
with
that
us,
will be impacted, and we will bring it to you right here on Live Now from Fox.
Guard Major General Haas. We have Columbia County Emergency Management Director Shane Morgan, Sheriff Mark Hunter from Columbia County, and Representative Chuck Brannan. This storm is going to impact inland counties, and particularly in northern Florida, you are going to see significant impacts. You know, the contours of that will obviously be determined by the exact path of the storm, but I think you're doing the right thing to be prepared. So we're talking about counties like Columbia, we're talking about counties like Hamilton, Madison. All those counties are going to be affected by Hurricane Idalia. We are monitoring some of these computer models. You may see the National Hurricane Center update the track in either 2 o'clock or the 5 o'clock advisory. There are models suggesting that this is going to take more of a westward shift that could bring it into areas like Jefferson and Leon and Wakulla area even. And people have known that this is a possibility, and I know all those counties are making preparations, but that is something to look out for. There's still a range of uncertainty here. They're going to be updating this track as the day goes on, and we will have probably better resolution on that as we get to the 2 or the 5 o'clock advisory. But that is a possibility. We've been in contact with all the local officials in all these areas, and I know people have been making preparations. So continue to do that. The state is already starting to feel some effects of this in the southern part of the state. You're going to start to feel some effects of it in the northern part of the state, probably later tonight, the beginning of tomorrow morning. We have expanded our executive order this morning. We now have 49 counties total. We've added Brevard, Orange, and Osceola counties, and so, you know, pretty much that top of the state all the way into central Florida. maybe excluding some of the farther western panhandle counties, but there's a huge number of counties that are going to feel impacts from this, and we want to make sure they're able to do what they need to do. We're proud of all the staging that's been done, particularly for power restoration. We're now at over 25,000 linemen as of this morning. That is going to be over 30,000, approaching 40,000 by the end of today. And the goal is, when the power, and you are going to lose power if you're in the path of this storm, you should assume that that's going to happen. And the goal is going to be rapid restoration of power. Some of the parts where this storm is projected to go are a lot of trees. There's going to be a lot of branches, a lot of trees. There's going to be a lot of power lines down. Just expect that. There's a lot of manpower that's going to go to address it, but it's definitely going to be something that is going to require a lot of manpower and a lot of attention. So power restoration is something that is very, very important, and we want to thank all the utilities that have marshaled. We've got people coming from southeastern states. We've got people coming from Nebraska coming to Florida to be ready to go to restore power here in the state of Florida, and we think that's important. The local municipalities that have utilities, some of the electric co-ops, all those, please accept the mutual aid. We want to be able to have as much manpower as possible to get that power back on for all of your residents, and we know how important it is for so many Florida residents to be able to get back online. But you should prepare to have some time without power if you're somebody that's in the path of the storm. And by the path, it doesn't mean just in the cone, because there's going to be impacts that are going to be outside whatever the National Hurricane Center says is the path of the storm. There have been evacuation orders issued for people on coastal areas, barrier islands, low-lying areas. You still have time, particularly if in the northern part of the state, you have time to be able to evacuate. You don't need to drive hundreds of miles. You don't need to try to outrun the storm. Just get to higher ground, get into a safe structure, ride out the storm, then you can go back to your place. But in some of these areas, like a Cedar Key, some of these others, along the Big Bend, you're talking about really, really significant storm surge potential. I mean, this is similar 10, 12 plus feet of storm surge could happen in some of those areas. And the storm surge is not something, you're not going to win that battle if you decide to stay behind for that. You run away from the water and then you hide from the wind. And so in Florida, if you get away from where the surge is going to hit, most of the structures that we have, particularly things that have been built in the last 20, 30 years, those are going to be fine for a Category 3 storm. And so you can hunker down there on higher ground where the storm surge isn't going to be a threat. But if you're putting yourself, if you're hunkering down in an area that could get hit by 10, 12 feet of storm surge, that is a life-threatening situation. And we saw that with Hurricane Ian, just how massive the storm surge was. So you are going to see parts of the coast, probably in the Big Bend area, that is going to have really significant storm surge. We actually anticipate the National Hurricane Center to increase their estimates for the storm surge, particularly in the Big Bend, from where it was this morning. So please be advised, you've got time. You've got the ability to do. I know all these counties have opened up shelters. You can go stay with friends, family. I know there's deals on hotels. You still have time to do that if you're in this Big Bend area, but time is running out very, very rapidly. We are working with counties to make sure they have the resources they need to be able to help their residents weather this hurricane. We've had more than 450 active missions. We've fulfilled or will have those fulfilled sometime today, all 450 of them. And I want to thank the Florida Division of Emergency Management for doing that. We're now up to 1.1 million gallons of fuel that is on standby to be able to mitigate any fuel interruptions. And sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. We'd rather be safe than sorry, so that fuel is there, and that can be deployed as needed if there is an interruption in fuel. We have all 8 urban search and rescue teams from the state of Florida are activated and ready to go. Hopefully they're not going to have anything to do. Hopefully everybody got out of town and there's not, who are in these low-lying areas or in the very vulnerable areas, hopefully there's not a need for rescues, but we assume that there will be, and they're going to be there, and they're going to do their thing, which they do very, very well. We have a lot of assets available. We have 5,500 National Guardsmen. We have Rotary Wing assets. We have Riverine assets. All of that is ready, locked and loaded to be deployed as needed. We have deployed almost 250 Starlink internet devices, and we have over 500 staged that can be sent to areas that need it once the storm passes by. We have 3,000 staged and ready to deploy. We have more than 700 personnel, including over 220 cut and toss crew members, with more than 650 pieces of heavy equipment and trucks strategically placed across the state to prepare for cut and toss operations post-storm. That is going to be necessary. Hurricane Ian, because it was a more populated area, the amount of tree debris and some of the others on the road, while there was definitely some, it's probably not going to be as much as this storm will be, because you've got a lot of wooded areas. You're going to see a lot of branches go down, and so we have people standing by to be able to help clear the roads, and that's important just for pedestrian traffic, but also important for emergency response traffic. So that's something that's going to be really, really important. Once the storm passes, or once you lose power, if you use a generator, please use the generator appropriately. You cannot run the generator in your home. You can't run the generator in your garage. You can die from carbon monoxide poisoning. It's got to be outside your house, 20 feet away from doors and windows, and the exhaust needs to be pointing away from your house. So please use that appropriately. There's obviously a need for power generation in these circumstances. We understand that. But make sure that that's being done outside and that there's not exhaust coming into your house. We're going to be heading back after this to Tallahassee to continue with preparation efforts. In the meantime, we'll hear from Director Guthrie, Director Morgan, and CFO Jimmy Petronas.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for your continued support and leadership in this disaster. I'm going to pick up where the Governor left off about generator safety again. Please make sure that that's 20 feet outside your home. I know that we've had a couple of times where we've had people think garages are open. That is not open. It needs to be out away from your garage as well. So please do that. Talked to the Chief Meteorologist for the Division of Emergency Management, Amy Godsey, just before I walked in the door. Again, reiterating what the Governor has already said, we do anticipate seeing some higher level storm surge values coming out of the National Hurricane Center here very shortly. Potentially a track back to the west a little bit more towards Jefferson County and potentially even over into Leon. But what I would ask people to do now, especially if they live on the river, its tributaries in the Suwannee River Valley, of course, up here in Columbia County as well, please heed the warnings. If Shane or any of your local emergency managers ask for an evacuation, please do that. You are going to lose power. If you are power dependent, you have to have that. You're going to lose power. We are going to lose power. So please make sure you go someplace that has power that can help you out. I'm not going to talk about how Columbia County needs to handle that. We do have on our website right now at floridadisaster.org/SNR. That's S as in Sam, N as in Nancy, R as in Romeo, SNR. That's our special needs registration, but we are getting into a window where we're going to have to go direct with counties versus us getting that information and making sure it gets down to the county level. So I'll let Shane obviously talk about how he does that here in Columbia County. But again, if there's a doubt, call your local emergency management agency and then listen to your local emergency management official as we move into these next few hours. As soon as the disaster is passed, again, all of the state's resources and all the state emergency response team, the 30-plus agencies that we have, plus all of the mutual aid that is coming from all over the United States, will be ready and quickly responding to it, to include even in the overnight hours. So please stay safe. Please heed the evacuation warnings. Thank you so much, Governor, for all you do for us.
Okay, Shane.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I just want to reiterate what they were talking about. If you do have issues such as you're a special needs patient, you can call in. Our citizens information number is open and active. We opened it at noon today. That number is 386-719-7530, and we can help you get registered for the special needs shelter if that is something that you are wanting to take advantage of and be a part of. The shelters will open at 6 o'clock. We have 5, we have the one special needs shelter, which will be Westside Elementary School. Then we have some community centers. We have the Richland Community Center that will be open, the Winfield Community Center, and also the Westside Community Center. And we will have Fort White High School open on the south end of the county as well. But thank you all for the support from all the agencies here in the room, the support I'm getting from the Division of Emergency Management already, just 2 days basically into this event. But everybody, please heed the warnings, stay safe, and we're preparing for the worst but hoping for the best. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Jimmy Petronas. Yeah.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin Guthrie, I was talking to him in the car. He hadn't even had a honeymoon yet. So thank you for your dedication to the citizens of the state of Florida. Look, just as we saw with Hurricane Michael and Hurricane Ian, these storms can be unpredictable. They can change at the last minute. The storm surge that the governor and Kevin have alluded to, you can't run from water. You can't. You just it's too dangerous. There's no structure that can survive the type of surge a storm like this can put out. So the life-threatening surge is something that I really want to just heed on and listen to the evacuation orders by your local officials. As we get into the recovery, you're going to have predators that are going to pre-stage outside those affected areas. And I'm telling you, Mark Hunter and his folks do an amazing job of keeping you safe. But these folks are going to approach you at your doorstep, and they're going to offer to remove trees off your house. They're going to offer to provide you services before the storm and after the storm. I'm just going to let you know, if you feel comfortable giving a total stranger cash at your doorstep, you might as well be setting it on fire, because that's what you're doing. You're not going to be able to get any restitution, any reimbursement back from your insurance company with those type of transactions. Just understand, people that come out immediately after the storm, a lot of times are not of the best intentions. They are going to seize that opportunity to take advantage of you because you're vulnerable. Whatever you do, do not sign anything. You're going to have folks that are going to want to provide services to you, and they're going to say, just sign this document. You may be signing a contract that now is obligating you to services where they're going to charge you whatever they want. So understand, signing something immediately after the storm, you need to get your facts straight, make sure you understand what your rights are. If you have damage, you want to call my office at 1-877-MY-FLCFO, your insurance agent, or your carrier. As long as that's the first call you make with damages to one of those 3 numbers, you're not going to be taken advantage of. I can promise you that. What you've got after the storm is a need to get those assistance dollars out. We will be setting up villages all over those affected areas and helping people get that rapid dollar in their hand. But I just don't want anybody to come in between you and your dollars that you're owed from the insurance company. You still got time right now. Take out, we're a smartphone society. Get your phone and go walk around the outside of your house. Shoot a video of your house. The fact that the house looks good, that there's no trees leaning on it, there's no broken windows. And then inside your house, take pictures of everything. Take pictures of your wall coverings, your floor coverings, what's on your bookshelves. Because now what's going to happen, if you do have damage, your insurance company's going to say, all right, what was damaged? You're not going to remember, but if you have those photos, you can reflect on those photos and make that inventory to file your claim. You'll also have that photographic.
All right, everyone, you are watching live now from Fox as we continue to bring you the latest here, tracking Hurricane Idalia, as we were listening to the latest update there from the Florida Governor, Ron DeSantis, and his officials. Hi, everyone. Mike Pace here. Thanks so much again for being here with us as we are going to do our best to really take you city by city, county by county in Florida that is going to be impacted here by the hurricane. We want to continue our coverage right now on Live Now from Fox. We are going out to Longboat Key. This is where we find Fox 13's Kim Quizon. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Hi, Mike. Well, I want to show you the first thing here. You can see a lot of the businesses have prepared. This is the Shore Restaurant on the north end of Longboat Key. And I want to show you something else, too. You can see that the winds, the rain, have really picked up. About 2 hours ago, the winds were still pretty died down. Now they've gotten steady. We've started to feel those gusts that are stronger and pushing us at times. You also see the water right here. This is what officials will be watching over the next several hours and until tonight and tomorrow morning. They will be looking at the storm surge. Now, in the area, we're also facing a king tide right now. About 2 hours ago, there was water on the roadway. Now that water has since dissipated, but officials are concerned with the surge that we could see down here, about 4 to 7 feet. With that king tide, that flooding could be a big concern. And again, we are in the north end of Longboat Key in the village. This is a very historic part of Longboat Key. You still have several single-story homes. We talked to one resident who's lived here for 43 years. He's been through flooding before, but he's staying put for right now.
The water's not so much fun today, and it could get a lot higher probably in the morning, probably around 1 or 2 this morning when the high tide comes in and the wind shifts. Then we'll have some issues probably.
Yeah, and that resident said that they are still recovering from damage from 2 years ago, actually more years ago than that, 2020 from Ada, where they also had flooding inside their home. Now the area is evacuation zone A, but the Longboat Key Fire Department is concerned because they said that there are still a lot of residents that have stayed behind, and while they may be able to stay safe, if that flooding does happen out here like they are expecting to see some, then they will have to send crews out to help those people. So right now, only time will tell, but we are feeling those winds pick up. And we did see a lot of people this morning starting to board up, adding additional sandbags, and taking all those preparations, as many as they can. Back to you.
Wow, Kim, yeah, conditions have definitely changed just in the last hour or so out there for you. We really appreciate your update there live in Longboat Key. Thanks so much, and stay safe to you and your crew.
Thanks, Mike.
And of course, we got everyone always covered right here on Live Now from Fox. We are going to continue our coverage here on Live Now coming up in just moments. Stay right here with us. We are going to go to a quick 2-minute break as we continue to track the latest of Hurricane Idalia. Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. We appreciate you joining us here as always. I'm your host, Mike Pace, continuing to track right now Hurricane Idalia, as right now it's a Category 1 storm, but is expected to hit Florida as a Category 3 storm with winds up to 125 miles per hour. So a big storm and a huge impact there. So we are going to be keeping an eye on that for you and continuing to give you the latest updates. I do want to go right now for just a little bit. Let's go with Fox 35 in Orlando for some of their coverage on the hurricane.
That's the latest for you right now. Reporting in the storm truck, I'm Caroline Coles for Fox 35 News.
Caroline, thanks so much. Live pictures now from Tampa. That storm is being hit with some of the rain bands from Idalia. That's where we find Fox 35's Ariel Placencia this afternoon. Hi there, Ariel.
All right, here's a live look right now in St. Petersburg. We are going to hear in just a little bit from the latest updates there from Ariel. They were taking her coverage there, so don't want to double up on that. Let's go out right now out to Fox 13 for
We've done
their
this whole
coverage.
charade a couple times, never to this extent because it's either been a Class 1 or a tropical storm, so we weren't worried about 9 feet of water. We were worried about, normally what I would do is I stack things on tables just to get it off the ground, but that's not going to be enough this time.
Again, mandatory evacuation orders are in effect for everyone west of US 19 in Hernando County. Authorities say once the conditions worsen, emergency responders are not going to be able to come out here and help anybody else if they end up in a dangerous situation. At that point, those who are staying behind are going to be on their own. The woman who you just heard from, who we spoke to a little bit earlier, says she's going to stick it out, but she has a plan that she thinks will be effective in case it does get bad. There's a home that's under construction that's made of entirely of concrete that's at least 3 stories. Her plan, whether it works or not, and hopefully she doesn't have to go into this plan, is to get up there, try to get as high as she can in that under construction home. But I think the vast majority of people, Linda, in this area have heeded those warnings. They have evacuated, and they're just going to see how things go and when they can return.
Yeah, and is that the lady that said she didn't want to evacuate because of her pets? She's certainly not alone, because
Yes.
that's an issue with a lot of people. All right, well, we wish
sure
her and her
is.
pets well. Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah.
Let's go now to Citrus County, where evacuations have been taking place ahead of the hurricane. Now, in terms of this storm, Citrus is one of the most vulnerable counties in our viewing area. Fox 13's Evan Axelbank live in Homosassa. So, Evan, just how concerned are people there?
Well, the funny thing right now, Chris, is that if you didn't know that a hurricane was coming, you'd have absolutely no idea at all, because things couldn't be any more calm. Just take a look here. We're along the Homosassa River, and you can see that there's nary a wave, and the birds are chirping, and you see birds there on the dock. Now, I'm standing on one of the places that is the first to flood in Citrus County. This is the Homosassa boat ramp and McCrae's business that's here. And this is, a spot that will flood in almost any rain situation. So they're fully prepared for this to be overcome with water this evening. We've seen some people in their homes and people who are clearly still at home. This area has been evacuated. It is in Zone A here in Citrus County, and they've been ordered to leave, but not everybody has heeded that warning. Take a look, though. We did see a somber scene here a little earlier as an elderly resident of a 130-year-old house was evacuated by friends and family. We are right along the Homosassa River, and this home will certainly be in significant danger if the storm surge is significant. We also saw boats being brought in to tall storage facilities. Employees of the boat rental business here, McCrae's, and they're not planning to evacuate right away. We saw them here in the business, and they're getting things cleaned up and making sure things are put away. And right now they are in the motel across the way from me right now, maybe a couple of 100 feet from here or so. We did see a number of people along the way here down through Homosassa who appear to be staying in their homes. Those who are in a more fragile state, though, are being evacuated.
It's unpredictable and uncertain, but we're confident that we'll make it through it.
What is your plan right now?
To get her out of here and go. And from that, we don't know.
Citrus County Emergency Management says it's fully prepared for all kinds of what they call catastrophic events. They're prepared, they say.
All right, that was just some of the coverage that we want to bring to you right here on Live Now from Fox. I am your host, Mike Page. Always great to be here with you as we continue to track right now a hurricane as it continues to get closer to Florida. Hurricane Idalia. I want to give you some looks right here. This is St. Petersburg, Florida, and this is Clearwater. So we're just giving you some different shots right now, but we want to continue our coverage right now. Let's head out to Tampa. That's where we find Fox 13's Ariel Placencia. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now as you continue to track what's like in your area.
Yeah, good to be here with you guys. So the wind really starting to pick up here in Tampa. You can probably see the dark skies behind me, and we have had rain on and off today. Not raining right now, but that's the time when our county crews are really out and about in our hot spots, in our areas, in our local neighborhoods that really tend to flood. They're working to clear those storm drains of any debris or vegetation because we are expecting a lot of water to the area with those storm surge and obviously those strong winds. We want to be prepared. Preparations, though, those have been happening throughout the entire week over the past couple of days. We've got some video I'd love to show you. A very rare sight, the beach completely empty, and nearby businesses spending the past couple of days putting sandbags in front of their storefronts and plywood over the windows. Many who live on the water still have Hurricane Ian on their minds, they tell us, from last year, so they're not taking any chances with Idalia. So before the storm moves in a little later on, local families really spending a good chunk of today packing up their belongings. We do have several mandatory evacuations in place in our area. For example, all areas west of US 19 in Hernando County, as well as the Barrier Islands in Pinellas County. A lot of residents told us that they're moving more inland to wait out the storm, really hoping for the best, but of course, preparing for the worst and what might be to come. Now, evacuations, they've also included nursing homes and residential health care facilities. In many cases, our local county crews helping to make sure residents getting somewhere safe. Some local hospitals, too, they're evacuating patients and moving them to other facilities just to be on the safe side. And of course, we have a handful of shelters that are open in our area across all counties for anybody who needs them. Now, the governor was in our area in nearby Pinellas County yesterday, and I was at that press conference, and he talked about two things that I want to mention. First is fuel. He talked about strategically positioning fuel across the state so that if and when local gas stations go down, crews can respond and try to get those back up and running. And then he also talked about linemen, positioning tens of thousands of linemen, talking to major utility companies so that if and when we have power outages, those crews are able to respond quickly. We have hot temperatures, people need air conditioning. You got to get those lights back on as soon as possible. I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ariel Placencia, for really giving us a good insight of what it's like in the Tampa area, and we're hoping for the very best for you guys, and stay safe to you and your crew out there. We really appreciate it, and we'll continue to track it along with you and your team at Fox 13. All right, everyone, we are going to take another 2-minute break. Stay right here with us. Always more to come on Live Now from Fox.
And we're talking about, of course, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and that's really it. I mean, Virginia's not in play, right?
No. The same upper level trough, the same trough / cold front that is steering this system is going to steer this east. It cannot break through that front, or it cannot break through the trough. It's steering it into the Atlantic. It's not going to affect Virginia. In fact, even the Outer Banks won't be affected too much, although they may have some storm surge because they'll be on the south side of the storm.
Let's go to some of the comments and questions that are coming in right now. And we'll start here, of course, on Facebook Live. We'll go to YouTube Live and Twitter as well. But Mel and Brittany are asking the same question. First one talking about Brooksville faring with the wind specifically, Mel is asking about. And then Brittany, Brooksville, Spring Hill, the expectations tonight, Eric.
That's right. In regards to wind, we're looking at wind speeds in the Brooksville area, 30 to 40 miles per hour. And I think this may be underdoing it just a bit, but still, with the storm being so far to the west, these numbers will be lower and lower. And I think Brooksville will get the strongest of the wind tomorrow morning. There it is, 6 o'clock in the morning, pretty close to 30 miles per hour, and that's wind speed. We could see wind gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour in the Brooksville area. But once we get past about 6 o'clock in the morning and we start to head to the afternoon hours, then look, even mid to late morning hours, you start to see those winds start to subside a bit. But we'll still get some of those rain bands that will produce those strong gusty winds. So again, in the Brooksville area, 30, 35, just maybe tropical storm force, but I don't even think it's going to be that with how far west this storm is tracking.
All right, let's go to Chad Carson. #KJB, South Tampa near Bayshore. Will it push water in or drain it like some of the previous storms? I mean, we're talking about the Bay impact.
No, this is going to push. This is going to push in. In fact, we're going to see a wind out of the southeast and then out of the south. So imagine the wind going from straight. Let's see if I have a draw. I may have like a drawing tool here. Well, look at this. We're going to be seeing wind coming in from the south. So it's going to be pushing water into South Tampa, pushing water into the Bay, pushing water into Bayshore. So once again, after this storm passes throughout the overnight hours and tomorrow morning, we're going to get a southwest wind, right? So now the water is going to be pushed from the Gulf of Mexico into the Bay itself. So we're definitely expecting some flooding on Bayshore. We've already seen it. Our meteorologist, Lee Spann, sent a couple pictures in earlier today of the beginnings of some flooding in Bayshore. And the storm isn't even close to us now compared to where it will be a little bit later on tonight and then tomorrow once we get to the high tide around lunchtime.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Screen.
Yep.
All righty, folks. Let's continue getting in some questions and comments. This one is from Michelle. What can we expect in North Sarasota?
Yeah, so basically pretty close to the county line there. You got some great beaches. You got Siesta Key, Sarasota Beach further to the south. And so if you're in North Sarasota, toward the airport, toward Manatee County, again, you could see a couple foot of storm surge with the intercoastal and extreme coastal Sarasota County. But I think you're only going to get a couple of inches of rain and maybe a tropical storm force wind gusts if you're lucky. Again, the further south you are, especially south of Tampa Bay, the likelihood of tropical storm force wind gusts really decrease. And again, you can see the camera moving there on the skyway almost look like some ray of sunshine right on the top of it. But we are in a lull right now, and we will be for the next several hours. And the models did predict one initial rain band coming in, as we saw earlier in a time lapse. And the rest of the rain doesn't really make its way into our area, at least the heaviest part, until after about 11 o'clock tonight, midnight, all the way through early tomorrow morning. But you can see on our radar that we do have a couple of showers that are headed toward Cape Hayes Peninsula, Rotunda, Englewood, toward the Northport area. And eventually, these showers will make their way into Sarasota. But again, the heaviest rain not expected to arrive until overnight tonight.
All right, let's get to this one from, how about this for a YouTube name? We got some weird ones. Spicy pineapple.
On a pizza.
No.
Oh.
No.
We talked about that last year.
Yeah, we did.
Just regular pineapple for me. I didn't see the comment.
How about no pineapple?
I was thinking about pineapple on pizza. And I
like
totally missed the
on
comment.
pizza.
If it's got ham and pineapple on pizza, oh no. I lost JB. He's out. You know what he's going to get me for my birthday? He's going to get me a pineapple and ham pizza.
Ham and pineapple on pizza?
Why? What's wrong with that?
Oh, no.
Okay, come on. YouTube poll. Who's crazy?
Emoji poll, thumbs up or thumbs down.
Okay.
Ham, look, we'll come back to the
Let's
question.
just do the pineapple.
Okay.
Forget about the ham for now.
Pineapple on pizza.
It actually tastes
Emoji
decent.
poll. All right, we're gonna come thumbs up.
I never thought I would like it.
Or thumbs down.
But I kind of like it.
I just.
I know. Being from New York,
we're pivoting.
You just can't do it.
Yeah, I'm a pizza purist, unapologetically.
I mean,
so.
I don't go out of my way to get pineapple on a pizza, but you know what?
Right now, we're still working on
I kind of think that I might.
We've asked to evacuate that Zone A, those coastal areas that are going to be affected by this storm. We're out there asking people to leave, asking to keep your family safe and go somewhere else. Because it's my biggest fear. It's the worst feeling in the world when overnight tonight these conditions get so unsavory that even law enforcement and fire rescue, who will go out and face the most dangerous situations, we can't unnecessarily place their lives in harm because you decided to stay, and now the storm surge has come. Now that wind and rain has come, and you're in a position where the power went out and you're power dependent, and we asked you to take you or your loved ones to a shelter, and you decided to stay and shelter in place, which is your right, but realize it comes with tremendous risk. Again, there's no greater sinking feeling for you or us when you make that phone call, you call 911, and help's not coming. Please don't put you, your loved ones, or us in that situation. If you live in flood-prone areas, this storm's not going to be unlike any other. There's going to be some flooding, and it's going to be worse. We have a king tide. We have 4 to 6 inches of rain in a short amount of time that's trying to get out, and a king tide and 4 to 7 feet storm surge, and that could change in a moment's notice with this uncertain storm, water trying to get in. It's not going to present itself for any type of desirable conditions. Yes, the sun's going to come out tomorrow, and we're all going to think we're out of the woods. Let's get back to life. Let's get back to some type of normalcy. The conditions are going to be dangerous. Our deputies are going to be out there working with the county, closing a lot of roads. This isn't the time to be a risk taker. I think I can drive through it. I think I can make it down a road. I assure you, again, you don't want to be that person that you damage your car, or worse yet, you put your family at risk, because it only takes a few inches for that car to start having a mind of its own and traveling somewhere else. Please, also, I have to tell you about the health risk. How that water is dirty. This isn't a playground for our children who are off school. Don't put them or allow them to go play in this water. You'd hate to see whatever the type of the undertow could be, along with just the germ-infested water as it's trying to vacate the area. Stay away from standing water. Shelter locations. Our superintendent has been phenomenal. We thought we may need to open up some more. He's been gracious, opened up 10 of his schools. That's pet friendly. Again, if your family's pet has pets, please, if you have some place to stay, but if it's a last resort, you need to go somewhere, please do so. We have 110 people at the shelter so far. Rather low number, and that's good because I think people are taking advantage of other places to go versus the last resort and go to a shelter. So continue to do so. I want to take a moment just to thank our community. Thank you for heeding the warnings. Thank you for going out and getting the sandbags. I've visited many sandbag locations. It's great to see our community helping each other. It's great to go out to the supermarkets and seeing that they don't have tow trucks coming in because you feel that you need 50 pallets of water or 75 million rolls of toilet paper. I assure you that if the power goes out, it won't be for long. TECO and their partners are prepared. We'll get it restored. Please continue to be that good community partner and get what you need. It's not a time to panic. It's a time to be prepared. There's still time to prepare. Those items that you may need if you lose power for a few days, please go out and secure those items. Another thing we've been busy doing is our homeless community. We've been out making contact with them, trying to get them to seek the shelters, informing them that the storm's coming. Some of them obviously don't have contact with the social media in general, so we're going out making contact with our homeless and our homeless communities, trying to encourage them to go someplace safe. I don't think it can be said enough: hide from wind, run from water. And the thing that we saw and that we've learned from Fort Myers, that people were okay with the wind and the rain, it's the storm surge that ended up taking their lives. Keep you and your family safe. I'd also like to talk about 911. If there's a 911 emergency that you need to call, please, I encourage everybody to call 911. But if it's not an emergency, but you have a storm-related question, and there are a lot of questions, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call. But allow me just a moment to provide a better number for you to call, so we're not tying up the emergency line for those individuals that truly need our help instantly. 1-833-427-8676. That's the Hillsborough County Citizens Action Line. Take advantage of that. We'll put that on all our social media avenues. If it's not an emergency, please take advantage and make contact in that number so we can keep our 911 operators free. We'll bring in this evening our day shift for tomorrow. Will come in. They'll spend the night with us throughout the county. So we will be prepared. We are ready. I'm asking that you do the same for you and your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. I think what the message you're hearing repeated over and over is, regardless of where the eye of this storm hits along Florida's west coast, is this will be a major event. Whether that is directly surrounding where the storm hits or a related surge and storm affects, Florida has over 40 counties that are currently under a state of emergency. And time is running out to prepare and evacuate. And so, as someone who witnessed firsthand the devastation, not just from where the eye hit, but from all of the surrounding areas that were affected from a very high storm surge, please heed the warnings of those behind me. What was most alarming was that there was a cutoff point where law enforcement and other first responders, fire rescue cannot get to you. When the storm is hitting, their lives are in danger as well. And so, as I have spoken to emergency operation managers and sheriffs from around our state, and all feel very good and prepared, and they are so complimentary of the Floridians and public service members that are working round the clock to prepare. I'm confident they're prepared, but we need you to do your part. We need you to prepare now. That is the only way we will weather this storm, is if we were all paying attention, heeding the warnings, and taking appropriate action. I am proud to say, as someone who monitors price gouging and contacts with our office about Floridians that might be looking at an emergency as a way to make a profit, we are having very little contacts regarding price gouging, and that means a lot. And what it says about Florida sticking together and trying to prop everyone up instead of using an emergency. But I will say, as you heed evacuation warnings, as you're leaving your home if you are in a surge area or in a flood zone, be mindful of hotels and gas for extraordinary price increases. You can report those to our office by the price gouging hotline or by our No Scam app. We can follow up on that. We will handle that. You can let us know that information, but those investigations are going to take a backseat right now to your safety. So we need you to be prepared, pay attention.
All right, that was the latest update out of Hillsborough County, Florida. You are watching our coverage right here live now from Fox on the latest of Hurricane Idalia. We are providing you full coverage of that right here. As always, I'm your host, Mike Page. Thanks again for being here with us in special coverage right now. It is now 5 o'clock out on the East Coast, 2 o'clock on the West Coast. I want to go to Fox 13 in Tampa, our great team out there. We're going to take in some of their coverage right now, and in about 15 minutes we'll be talking to the National Hurricane Center, and then in about 45 minutes we will have live the latest update from Governor Ron DeSantis out there in Florida. So let's go right now. Fox 13 in Tampa, their coverage as the meteorologist giving the latest assessment.
72 that we picked up on a recon report. Motion now, it picked up another mile an hour. This is moving at 16. You start talking about tropical systems that start moving 16, 18, 20 miles an hour. In the world of tropical systems, that's considered fast. So it'll continue to pick up speed as it gets picked up by a trough that's kind of sitting back here. and high pressure building to the east, kind of yank it to the north, and heading for Appalachia Bay as a Cat 3. So by 2 a.m., 115 mile an hour Cat 3. So that, and when it's at this position, and the position up in the Big Bend area, we'll start noticing west and southwest winds coming in that will have to pile some water up along our coast. So it is the tide cycle that's high around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And even tomorrow when it's up here, as just a Cat 1, there'll still be gusty west and southwest winds that'll probably pile in more water along our west coast. But my earlier reasoning, even though it's a Cat 2, I still believe the hurricane force winds will stay west of us, out over the water. So at your house, I would not expect you to experience hurricane force winds. I do think you'll see tropical storm force winds, especially along the coast. Already, there's been gusts 35 to 40 along the coast. That's an easy forecast. But as far as getting winds 70, 80, 90, I think that'll be offshore. Maybe along the beach, it's going to be pretty rough because it's open, no friction. But inland, the only way you'll have any winds that level is if we don't want to see it, as if a tornado went by. I just don't see winds sustained that strong. The models have done a pretty good job. I mean, yeah, they've been kind of bouncing a little bit back and forth, but overall, this has been the spot that we've been talking about landfall now going back to Saturday. So overall, the forecasting track has been pretty good. Rounds of rain continues to come in from the southeast. Areas of heavy rain moving through Tampa Bay right now. Heavy rain up by Brooksville. Steady rain Sarasota. Fort Meade had heavy rain. Wauchula, rain continues. Sebring, rain for you. And then across our inland areas, frost-proof, getting some decent rain. Now moving up towards Davenport and Haines City. Lakeland, heavy rain up in Brooksville. Watching rain for you. Dade City, that's all moving into Citrus County. Wind gust, 24, 21, 29 Miami, 32 Marathon, 39 Key West. Sustained 23 in St. Pete. Gust to 20 at Tampa National right now, which is closed. The probability of winds in excess of 75 miles an hour will continue to stay offshore. So that is good. Obviously a high probability up over the Big Bend. And the storm surge numbers, I'm going to look at the 5 o'clock advisory. Some of these may have been fine-tuned. We'll update that at 5:20. One more view of decent rain that'll come in not only tonight and tomorrow, but into Wednesday and Thursday. Pretty good rainfall event right along our coast. We'll have more, including the specific forecast at 5:20. See you then.
All right, Paul, thank you. We head first to Manatee County and Sarasota counties, where people spent the morning and afternoon preparing for the hurricane. That includes getting more sandbags and last-minute boarding up. There's also some localized flooding. Fox 13's Kimberly Cuisin joins us from Longboat Key in the Village. Kim, I understand you were already experiencing some flooding there. Are you able to show us?
Yeah, Linda, well, actually, that flooding has gone down. That's part of the king tide that Paul has also talked about. But I'll show you right here. Around 1:30, Travis and I got here. We're right in between the Mar Vista and the Shore Restaurant. The dock right over here, the water was all the way up to that very top part of the dock. You can see how much further it has gone down at this point. I also want to show you some drone footage. Rusty Chinnis, a longtime resident of Longboat Key, sent us this. Now, this is the village here, and you can see just from a couple hours ago what the village was dealing with. You have water in the roadways, almost some coming up to people's doorsteps. Now, the village here is used to this, especially with those higher tides and with king tide. But what officials are concerned about here on Longboat Key and in other parts of Manatee and Sarasota counties is that storm surge. So with the storm surge and that tide, they are waiting to see what exactly will happen. And that's why those evacuations were issued for Zone A. Now, driving around on Longboat Key, we can tell you that people have decided to stay. In fact, there's some people out on their sailboats that are right behind us. But we did speak to one longtime resident. He's lived in the village for more than 40 years. And this is what he had to say. And he does have a plan to get out when that time comes, if it comes.
The water's not so much fun today, and it could get a lot higher probably in the morning, probably around 1 or 2 this morning when the high tide comes in and the wind shifts. Then we'll have some issues probably.
And that resident we spoke with, he said it back during Ida, he actually also had damage on his home from the storm and the floodwaters at that point in time. He said all of his cleanup efforts have finally just wrapped up, and now he's here at this point in time. But Lomboki Fire Rescue, Manatee County, Sarasota County have asked people in evacuation zones A to leave, just because if that water does rise today, they're not sure when they'll be able to get to people to help them. Linda, back to you.
All right, Kim, first, before I let you go, two things. First of all, that drone video really puts things into perspective nicely. And secondly, I have to ask, the gentleman you talked to on the sailboat, like he lives on the sailboat? He's going to ride it out on the sailboat?
We didn't get to talk to him personally, but I do know from experience that there are people that do live on their sailboats. I know last year during Hurricane Ian, there had to be some calls to help rescue some people in different parts of Sarasota County. But Travis and I did see him. He went out there with his dinghy. It looked like he had some supplies, and he looks like he's going to be staying out there for right now.
All right. Well, many of those boaters are experts, so our thoughts are with them. Thank you, Kim. A nursing home in Manatee County was evacuated this afternoon. This is the Bayview Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Bradenton, and it's located along the Manatee River. So as a precaution, the center contacted the county and had them help move the residents to a safer place.
Let's go now to Pinellas County, where a lot of people along the coast are concerned about storm surge from Idalia. Fox 13's Kaylee Tracy is live in Treasure Island. Kaylee, last hour there were surfers out there taking advantage of the waves. What's it like out there now?
Well, even more surfers out here, Haley, behind me. We actually just saw a man who had been paddleboarding, and he put a bed sheet. He said he tied the bed sheet, finagled it onto a paddleboard to windsurf out there, but he came in because the winds were pushing him a little too far out there, though. Officials do stress that this is in Zone A here in Sunset Beach and Treasure Island, a mandatory evacuation zone, and residents should leave now. Across Pinellas County, there are about 338,000 people under mandatory evacuation between zones A and all of the mobile homes in the county, and officials ask that you be out no later than 7 p.m. tonight. And Pinellas County's Director of Emergency Management says do not take this storm lightly. If winds get above 40 miles per hour, first responders may not be able to get you, she says. Here in Sunset Beach, officials say staying is at your own risk, while surfers tell us they'll be out here at least for a little while longer.
I just came out to catch a few waves prior to the storm coming. Finish picking up, and then I'll hunker down. I'm just trying to have fun, that's all.
Now, thousands of Duke Energy crews are also stationed at Tropicana Field, ready to help during and after the storm. 10 shelters are open across the county, and officials tell us more than 1,500 people are utilizing those shelters right now. Uber is offering free rides to shelters up to $35, and the county is also asking you to please conserve water to help the sewage and wastewater systems continue to operate during and after the storm. Now, we have a list of all the shelter information and other vital information for Pinellas County and all the Tampa Bay area right now on fox13news.com. If you have any questions about this storm, Pinellas County has an information center with a 24/7 number that you can call. That number 727-464-4333. In Sunset Beach, Kaylee Tracy, Fox 13 News.
Yeah, those surfers are a different breed. Just saw one waving behind you there, but catch waves when you can, but hopefully they know when it's time to go. They pack it up and they head over to dry land. All right, Kaylee Tracy reporting. Thanks, Kaylee.
Hillsborough County emergency officials ordered a mandatory evacuation for Zone A. Those are residents living near the water. Fox 13's Gloria Gomez joins us live from Davis Islands. Gloria, we've talked about this pretty much all day. People have their own reasons for either deciding to ride it out on the islands or evacuate.
Yeah, most of them are deciding to ride it out and stay home. And of course, emergency officials say that is not a good idea, especially with the fact that fire stations that are in Zone A will be closing down at 8 o'clock, so there won't be anyone to rescue you during the height of the storm when you need it if you call 911. That is just one of the precautions they talked about earlier today. We actually drove around Davis Islands today just to kind of see what people were up to. We have some video to show you of people, doing exercising, walking around, enjoying the day, just taking it all in before the storm, taking it really easy today. Not a lot of worry property around here. Some people did put sandbags in front of their home as a precaution, but a lot of people decided to, definitely just stick it out here, which is not the best idea. I did talk to one resident, though, who said, you know what, I am heeding the warning. I am going to take my family to another location where they're safe. Take a look.
Yeah, we've already done everything, all the prep work. That's why I'm on my bike now, just enjoying the slightly cooler weather. So.
And does it surprise you that a lot of your neighbors are kind of doing the same thing?
No, we've all been through this so many times that this seems like the least one to worry about, and hopefully that's not a concern, that we're not worried. But I don't think it looks like this one's pretty predictable.
Now, not a lot of activity on the water either. We spotted a couple of tugboats heading towards the port of Tampa, but other than that, it's been pretty quiet here on Davis Islands. Just a reminder again.
All right, that was the latest from our coverage of our sister station, Fox 13 in Tampa, always doing a great job of providing the latest updates of what they are seeing. And we are going to continue our coverage right here on Live Now from Fox. We want to go out to the National Hurricane Center. That is where we find Jamie Rome with the latest here. And boy, oh boy, this is setting up to be a big one.
Yeah, unfortunately, the much anticipated intensification that we've been talking about for the last couple of days is unfolding. And we now got a strengthening Category 2 with more intensification to come. Peak winds are now 100 miles per hour.
And what about, I call it the double S. What we don't want to hear about is the storm surge.
Press conference that's happening live. Our interactive coverage continues in just a moment.
The WSI computer?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
See that the legislature would not adopt in the current insurance reforms we passed back in
Look, we can talk about the policy stuff. I mean, I think right now we're focusing on the response, protecting people, and then getting what we need to go there. And this is about execution right now. We obviously can have different policy debates when the time's appropriate, but this is what we have to do to be able to save lives, be able to respond, be able to get people back on their feet.
Can you kind of talk about how many people are heeding those evacuation notices? How many people are under those evacuation notices right now?
So I'll let Kevin jump in if I say anything wrong, but I mean, I think on Cedar Key, the vast majority have done it.
Yes,
and I think that I don't think it's 100%, but I think it was a lot. I think it was a big percentage, and probably a bigger percentage in some of those really sensitive areas than happened in Hurricane Ian with some of those areas that ended up being ground zero. Of course, I think there's been a lot more notice that this storm was likely to hit in this area compared to Ian, because I think we had some track shifts, so I understand how people process that. But we've been talking about the Big Bend now for a few days, and I think people got the message. And I think by and large, I think that they have heeded the advice. So I would say way more have heeded than have not heeded.
Obviously, the storm is going to be pretty significant for Leon County with all the big trees we have. We haven't had a big hurricane, if not ever. I guess, is the state contemplating a contingency plan if Leon County is not able to run properly for the long term? I mean, there's people saying we could lose power for weeks, months.
So we have spoken with the mayor and recommended that there
utility accept the mutual aid, and I think he wants to accept it. I think he understands that could be useful. I think he understands that they want to get the power back on as quickly as possible. This utility here locally, has had some trouble on some of these situations with weaker storms in the past. I know in 2016. So we have the support here, and we want it to be used. So I think the city is going to welcome it, and that's why we have these people pre-staged, because we understand when you have a situation like this. I mean, hopefully nobody ends up in a life-threatening situation in Leon County at all. But even if some do, the vast majority of people are not going to be in that. The vast majority of people are not going to have their homes destroyed with this storm. But if they're without power for 2 weeks, I mean, that's not ideal. So we have the resources there. We want to bring those to bear. There will be some difficulty with all the trees, and there's going to be a lot of debris. We have our guys that are going to be willing to help with that as well. But we understand it's important to get this stuff going again. So there's a lot of resources available for both the county and the city to be able to help. And so we recommend that they take us up on that offer. All right, well, we will be here bright and early tomorrow, and we will be hunkering down here as the storm passes through this part of the state of Florida. Then once it passes, we're likely going to go down and be in the areas where you've had the most impacts and start the recovery, relief and recovery process as soon as this storm exits the state of Florida. Thanks.
Hold on. Ron DeSantis has left the building, and that puts us back here on live stream. Eric Stone, JB Buno here with you live. And Eric, we're looking at the latest here on Max Defender 8 radar.
Yeah, we sure are. And once again, we're starting to see Idalia develop a better looking center of circulation, a better eye as it continues to move primarily to the north pretty quick at 16 miles per hour.
Hold on. Just got to mute mics, folks. A lot of things happening here at the moment. Stand by. All right, Mike's back up. A lot of moving parts in the last half hour because Idalia is moving inland, or not inland. It's just moving in the Gulf, and of course, its impacts are being felt here in Florida. And of course, look, we're getting closer to a landfall event. Timing of a landfall again, one more time for the people just joining us, Eric.
I'd say no later than 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Maybe even sooner with how fast this is moving. Maybe even closer to 7 o'clock.
Let's talk about the eye wall. I mean, let's just talk about really quickly the very worst that this storm has, the biggest punch that it packs. Where is the strongest section of this storm?
Okay, so let's talk about the eye wall right now. And as I put a little telestration on here, it'll be right in this area, okay, where I'm circling. This is the strongest wind and the heaviest of the rain, right? And you can see it typically is on the east side of the storm. But do you remember with Ian, it was on the west and northwest side of the eye, and we kept saying, wow, I can't believe the strongest rain and wind is on the northwest side of Ian. And that's what hit Northport for about 4 hours straight. Well, once again, this area right here is the heaviest rain, the strongest wind. And, you know, if I put a ruler on this, you want to take a guess on how wide that eye is right now, JB?
50 miles?
Oh, no.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you meant that white circle.
Oh, gotcha. No. Just the eye
Just
itself.
the eye?
Yeah.
6 miles? No, less. 3.
I'd say about 7. Almost 9.
Wow. Yeah.
About 9 from here to here. Yeah, about 9 miles, which is very, very low. Now, when you talk about the eye wall, it's probably 50. Yeah, it's about 50 or so. That's pretty good there. And then when you're looking at the strongest of the rain, it's about 20 miles. So again, that is where we're looking at the strongest rain, strongest wind, and of course that is going to move. I turned off the telestrator. That is going to move in this direction right here, and places again like St. Mark's towards Cedar Key. That is who's going to be in the eye wall and the eye itself come tomorrow morning. So again, nowhere near Tampa, but still feeling the effects.
Let's go to Wobble Tracker and talk about what's going on right now. What are you seeing here, Eric?
Well, boy, again, that eye regeneration process seems to have reformed the eye slightly to the east. I don't see it wobbling too much. It just seems to be going straight east of the track. Again, I don't see this as an indication that it's really going to shift much further to the east. The spaghetti monoplots are still in agreement just to the east of St. Mark's, and we'll get new monoplots that come in, right around 8 o'clock or so, and between 8:30. So we'll see if there's any change in those, because if there is change in those, then we'll see a change in the cone at 11 o'clock. But again, there's nothing that leads me to believe that this is going to take a hard right turn and really impact us more than it's going to here in Tampa.
Yeah. This is a track that has, for the most part, really held steady. Perhaps, that westward nudge is the most noteworthy characteristic as far as a shift goes.
And it has been doing that ever since Sunday afternoon. It's been nudging to the west almost every single model run. And again, the only reason we saw that nudge far to the east is because the National Hurricane Center had the center of circulation 60 miles west of where it actually was. So once hurricane hunters flew through the storm and they saw that the center of circulation was 60 miles east, all of a sudden you saw the models 60 miles east in the Panhandle, which was closer to Tampa. But even since then, we still see that nudge to the west over the past 48 hours rather.
Yeah, let's go back to our comment section and say hello to you, our audience, wherever you're watching from. JB and Eric here with you. It has been a long day of live streaming, but we remain, of course, ready to go and covering Hurricane Idalia, a Category 2 storm expected to strengthen to a Category 3 before landfall at some time around breakfast tomorrow in the Big Bend region of Florida. My cue is clear. So any new questions, let's get them in starting right now. Hashtag HeyJB. Hashtag Hey Eric. I know that there's a lot of tweets coming in, and let's bring in actually this one from Daniel Silk tweeting hashtag HeyJB and Eric videos showing us what it's like in their neighborhood. First and foremost, please be safe out there. And second, we'll try our very best to get those in our. In fact, I'm gonna just message our team here real quick. If you tweet a video with hashtag HeyJB, we might be able to showcase it later on in our live stream. I just informed our team to be on the lookout for Twitter videos that you're signaling to us that you would like for us to feature on your live stream. So we'll be looking for those. Just please, please, please be safe. Pictures I can bring right in. Videos require a review by our team before they get fully ingested here into our system. Excuse me. Let's go to... Next, Daniel Silver is on Twitter and says, Well, hold on. Where's Daniel? There's Daniel. Hi, Daniel. Loving the coverage. Can you explain how the confluence of king tide, a full moon, and storm surge will affect the likelihood of flooding in coastal Pinellas and Tampa? This is, this is what we're talking about. I mean, we've talked a little bit about the full moon recently and talked about storm surge. You want to address this comment here, Eric?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the king tide is because of the full moon. So the king tide isn't separate from the full moon. When you have a full super moon, the closest to the Earth as you get all year, then yes, you get what we call a king tide or an extra high tide. So of course it's going to affect the storm surge. There's a high tide right around midnight, 2 a.m., and then right around lunchtime tomorrow. And I think the lunchtime tomorrow may be a little more significant because by then the storm will be further to the north and we'll really get that southwest wind pushing the water on shore and into the bay.
Let's go to, I think I've seen a few of these from Tati. Tati commenting this one. We'll try to get this one up on screen. There it is. How likely is a tornado to hit Polk County? And also too, it's a 2-for-1. What hurricane made the biggest impact on Florida? Wow.
Well, definitely Ian. I mean, without a doubt.
I think also too, like Charlie.
Charlie was more compact. Ian produced tornadoes in Fort Lauderdale, right? And it flooded Orlando. And we're not even talking about the West Coast yet, between Marco Island, Naples Pier, Fort Myers Beach Pier, Northport, Sarasota. And then, we lost some power in places in Tampa as well. And as it moved through Polk County, I mean, after Ian, you drive I-75 from Tampa all the way down to Naples. You drive I-4 all the way into Polk County, US 17 up the state, and you see signs that are blown down, billboards that aren't even there anymore. And that's not even mentioning the damage on I-95 and up in Jacksonville. I'm telling you, Ian just caused monetarily the most damage in Florida. And I mean, from what I've seen firsthand down at Fort Myers Beach, my previous home, I would definitely say Ian. There were two parts to that question. What was the first? What was the first part
let's
of
go
the
back
question?
To it. How likely is a tornado to hit Polk County?
Oh, right. So, tornadoes aren't really likely to hit, but the spin-ups are likely to happen. So, again, you can't really say, oh, well, Polk County is more likely to see a tornado versus Hardy County or Manatee County. Usually what happens is the coastal locations are more prone because these storms are rotating over a smooth water. And once you get the friction of land, then they really start rotating, and that's when you can get those spin-ups. So I would say coastal areas may be a little bit more prone to tornadoes versus inland areas, but still, you can't rule out a tornado even in Polk County. They'll be very weak, but they still can do some damage.
Let's go to this question from, Hope. We're going to add you to the queue. Hope, I'm going to get your comment up on screen, I promise. Let's see here. And yeah, people who are asking about the wobble tracker, that's on WFLA.com. Let's quickly address this one because you and I were talking about this off stream a moment ago, Eric, about hurricanes at night and really landfalls at night. And Christopher is one of several people asking about what I really don't know if there's data on this. There might be. I would have to review that data. This would be a great Track in the Tropics sort of talking point on another episode. But as far as hurricanes making landfall at night, this one isn't going to make landfall at night. This one's going to make landfall tomorrow morning during after sunrise.
Look at the ice storms. Ian made landfall at 2 in the afternoon. Irma made landfall about noontime. Idalia is going to make landfall 8 o'clock in the morning-ish, so that's after sunrise. You've got 13 and a half hours of daylight in Florida, in some places in Florida. So the chances of having a storm, making landfall during the day would be more so than at night. So I don't know that more have made landfall at night. I know that it's more dangerous when they make landfall at night because you can't see what's coming. especially when the power's out in your neighborhood. And as we take a look at the wobble track,
That's a wobble.
Yeah, yeah,
no doubt. This is a wobble.
The last right.
Watch the last frame
there. Yeah, the last frame it did wobble to the northeast. So, but again, this isn't the Ian wobble where it kept wobbling every 30 minutes. It would go north and then east and then east and then east and then east.
Oh my God! Yeah, I remember.
The cold front that is going to be steering this, and I say that in layman's terms because it's really the jet stream digging southward in a huge trough that's going to be picking Idalia up. But I'll call it a cold front just so people can understand. It's going to be guiding this storm north-northeast and just straight in that direction. It's not going to be pushing this storm northeast to east, just like it did with Ian, because at that time we were at the end of September and that cold front was so far south, and so it was guiding Ian right into Fort Myers because that front was just north of Tampa. So it couldn't make its way to Tampa because the fronts always win, right? The storm can't break through the front. It doesn't break through the jet stream. The jet stream is a much bigger feature, believe it or not, than a hurricane, even a major hurricane. So again, we are seeing this wobble slightly to the east, but I don't think it's going to affect our forecast for storm surge or wind. In fact, we were forecasting a stronger wind this morning, an even stronger wind yesterday, and I don't think we're going to see a hurricane force wind gust anywhere, not even in Citrus County. As yesterday at this time, some of the models were showing, upwards of 65, 70 miles an hour. But again, this track has moved so far to the west since then. Even if it moves a little bit back to the east, we're still looking at tropical storm force wind gusts, even in the northern counties where Idalia will be the closest.
Yeah, and wobbles might, at this point, really be consequential closer to landfall because a wobble or two could change the precise location. The National Hurricane Center will put out an advisory declaring landfall and then declaring the landfall location. I remember Michael was Mexico Beach. The exact precise location for Ian was what when they put that
Cayo Costa.
There it is.
Which is a Lee County island near Sanibel.
Yep. There's always that point on the map, and sometimes they're hyper-specific. So
Cayo Costa's small. I mean, if anyone knows that area, it's a very small island in Lee County. So in order for Ian to make landfall there, there's not much room there.
Very interesting to, of course, talk about landfall tomorrow. But before then, Rebecca Barry is with us. Oh, that's very kind of you. We have a television hit coming up here in 5 minutes. And then we are going to... you want to join us for the TV hit? No. Oh, you're just going to sit here and hang out? Rebecca Barry just wants to be in our company. Isn't that really nice?
It sure is.
Yeah, she just wants to hang out.
She heard us talking about pineapple pizza. Now, what's your take on that?
No.
See? Oh. I think JB's going to need that 10-minute break.
No. Yeah, no.
I said I wouldn't order specifically, but if it was there, I would eat it.
Oh, my gosh. So my favorite pizza on the planet is this little tiny shack in Costa Rica that's made out of a train caboose. And they have this big stone-fired, and they have the best pineapple pizza I've ever eaten.
Wow.
Look at JB's like, I don't want to hear this.
That just sounds like nonsense to me.
Any New Yorker would definitely disagree with that. But you know what?
Can't get behind it, I'm sure, for you and your taste buds.
With ham on it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
See?
Yep.
And you're sitting there in the jungle, and monkeys are going by on the trees.
It's like you're in Hawaii.
Yeah.
All you need is a
Macaws are
fruity
there.
drink, and you're all set.
I'm not
It's in Manuel Antonio.
I'm not shy with my pizza feelings, and so folks, you're getting very raw me when I talk about my preferences with pizza, and my preference with pizza.
And we had a lot of thumbs up emojis earlier, so we don't need to put that up again.
Yeah, let's just forget that ever
All right.
happened.
Next question.
Yeah, back here with you. You know what, Rebecca? I'm pulling rank. You're joining us for our stream, and welcome in. You're going to spend 10 minutes with us. That makes my job a little bit easier to be able to bounce some questions both to you and Eric, and it of course makes it more team coverage, right?
Yeah, and I do think you guys probably have been so inundated with questions that you haven't seen that the slosh model just updated. That's the storm surge forecast model, and it's most improved for most of our area.
Okay.
Now, we're still looking at so the red on the slosh model was above 9 feet, and there are still parts of Crystal River down to basically right down to Ozello. That's still in that, but the rest of Citrus County came down to 5 to 8 feet. And it's not as inundated on Highway 19 until you get to Crystal River. So I think Highway 19 may be passable tomorrow, even at high tide. And so that's the good news. And then for the Hillsborough area, we went down to 2 to 4 across most of it, only a couple of areas in that 5 to 8 foot zone. And so it got even better than that for Sarasota and Manatee, only 1 to 2 feet. So the SLOS model runs a little bit later. It takes a lot of computer power to run. It overlays the storm surge with our elevation, and so that update just came out based on that westerly shift that happened at 5. And so I've shared it with our reporters because they're out and about in the community and trying to find places to stay safe when the storm surge does start to come in tomorrow. And so that is very good news. It's not out of the woods for Homosassa. It's not out of the woods for Citrus and Hernando counties, but certainly not looking at the worst case scenario as we were earlier.
And you can see on the wobble tracker that it definitely has taken a wobble to the east over the past 5 to 10 minutes. So it's definitely east aligned. But as I was telling JB before, our predictions, or the predictions yesterday, are still going to be much improved, even with this slightly east wobble.
Yeah, and so we were talking about the wobble tracker downstairs on live TV because, of course, the anchors saw that easterly wobble and went, whoa, whoa, whoa. And Jeff explained that storms are not equally the rain is not equally distributed. And so the heavier rain bands, some of the rain bands interacting with land and encountering a little bit of friction causes it to wobble back and forth. And so he says to expect a zigzag pattern, but when it starts to wobble off of the path in a consistent manner for over an hour is when you start to think, okay, well, this is going to change impacts.
We'll be right. Hold on. I'm sorry. We have to interrupt, guys. We'll be right back. We have to get ready for our hit on broadcast television. Hey, control room, we got you.
Duration,
2.5 minute hit. All right.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you. This is a mic check for the control room. Mic check for the control room. All right, I'll be in Slate. Yeah, Keith, and we have some more company here in the Stream Center. Meteorologist Rebecca Barry has made her way upstairs to join us on stream and to answer questions from people. We're going to start here with Max Fender 8 meteorologist Eric Stone, though, with this question. Max Peters on Twitter wants to know, are we still expecting power outages specifically in South Tampa?
Yeah, it's really hard to pinpoint one specific area and say, hey, you know what, you're going to have power outages here, but downtown Tampa won't. Hey, you know what? This is a hurricane. It will be a major hurricane, and we'll have tropical storm force wind gust or even sustained winds. So, you know what? Power outages definitely possible in South Tampa, Hillsborough County, Pinellas County, and throughout our area.
Yeah, and Keith, we were also noting that wobble to the east right there on the live stream on Track in the Tropics. And that's why we started to get a couple of questions like this one from Virtual. #HJB, is there a possibility Idalia could shift more towards the Bay Area? People see that wobble east, Rebecca, and they immediately wonder, does that mean that it could continue to wobble east?
It's not out of the realm of possibilities. It would certainly be within the cone, but we're not really seeing any indication that that wobble will continue. Jeff's told us you can expect to see a zigzag pattern generally along the same straight line, but what we'll watch for is if that continues. It would need to continue for a greater duration, closer to an hour, for it to make any changes on the impact we would see across our area.
Hope wants to know, Eric, do we have any idea of what the winds will possibly be or projected to be in Pinellas and Hillsborough County? And we've been tracking this, all day long.
Right, exactly. Overnight into early tomorrow morning, I wouldn't be surprised if we had definitely tropical storm force wind gust. We'll see if we get tropical storm force sustained wind, maybe along the immediate coast, and especially in some of these rain bands that will start to impact us after midnight tonight.
I'll tell you the big question. You know the big question people really want to know at home? Rebecca, this one is clearly for you, of course. Mez wants to know, hey, when are we going to be able to go fishing again?
We were supposed to stop fishing? I didn't get the memo.
Look,